afternoon, race fans. Good evening. Welcome to Kansas Speedway. This is host to race number 10 of the Clutch Drop Cup Series. Getting ready for some mile-and-a-half racing on a very slick racetrack, and we're going to find out at the end of the night who's going to be able to add their name to 8 drivers that have so far been able to find winner's circle this season. I'm Seth Cole, alongside of Scott Rankin. And Scott, here tonight, it's going to be really for these drivers, I think, all about tire conservation.
That's it. Look, it depends on how the driver's setups are going, whether they've gone for that. Like we have seen, a good number of guys that are going in one direction, guys that are going in the other direction in terms of where their setups are headed and those sorts of things. So, look, ultimately, I think the best possible thing we can do is just settle into this race, see how it rolls on, see how people roll off pit road, what's the pace like early. Early on, you're going to be expecting guys to be full throttle for the first few laps at the very, very least. After that, who knows? Some of these guys could start to just really try and pick up their games, really go for it. There's options available when you're looking out there in terms of setup. Ultimately, the cars tend to get a little bit tighter in the longer run, so having a looser setup means you're going for a little bit more risk early. But bottom lane should be accessible. Top lane will find its way coming in, especially if you're looking after the tires. If you want the middle lane, look, it's the benefit of Kansas. You can run it a little bit anywhere. Tire strategy, though, that's going to be the biggie tonight.
Front row comprised of 2 of our former winners this season, Brian Sybry in the 33 on pole, alongside of the Bristol Dirt winner, Oscar Jensen. Mentioned that in the 9 races so far, 8 drivers have gone to victory lane. Will we have a 9th here tonight? We're about to find out. Stage 1 begins here at Kansas.
That's it. Drivers on the way. Keep your eyes on a few of them. Just going to... Look, ultimately, if I'm in these guys' shoes, I talk about it every single week, but you want to work your way into the race. You don't want to just go balls to the wall, throw the car into the wall early on. You want to make sure that you're settled in. Let's figure out the pace of these guys around you, and then let's sort of see what's going on. We've got a few guys up at the front that have been there pretty consistently. Brian Sybry managed to get the pole, and his team have been working quite hard behind him, so we'll see if they can come to the fore nice and early on.
Jensen trying to get the outside line going there. The outside line probably going to be the faster way around the racetrack, less off the throttle time, but you got to make sure you don't go up into that outside wall. Jensen will lead the first lap on the top side. Braxton DeWeese, another former winner, following right in his tire tracks, is Brian Sybry and Jacob Grant, currently there in 3rd and 4th, with Dylan Stipe bringing up the remainder of the top 5. Last week, these drivers took to the high banks of Talladega, where we saw Braden Carroll pick up his first win of the season. A last-to-first challenge, started 27th and finished P1. It's going to be interesting to see if anybody here tonight is able to pull out a strategy like that, because I'm being told these drivers in the first 2 stages, it's 40 laps in the first stage, 40 laps in the second stage, and I'm being told that the furthest these drivers can possibly go in a fuel window is 36. If we go green the entirety of stage 1, do you think somebody back mid-pack rear of the field might try and stretch it that 40-lap distance, pick up a stage win?
100%. I mean, what have you got to lose at that point? There's literally nothing you can lose, So, look, if you find yourself in that sort of a position, I'd be doing it. Why the hell not? I mean, if I can't match these guys for out-and-out raw pace, of course I'm going to try and stretch at the distance and beat them in terms of that fuel conservation. It's ultimately, these first few laps, whilst we're going to be a lot higher fuel percentage, that's where it's going to be, the difference is going to be made, because these guys are going to be full throttle the entire way around. If you can, keep yourself in the draft and still be accessible to a lot of the cars ahead of you while saving some of that fuel, that's the perfect spot to be.
Looking back there at that 3 wide situation, it involved last week's winner Braden Carroll in the middle of... Oh, we got a wreck! Is, I believe, the 15 of Travis Daly, who I was just about to talk about. He is wrecked along with Justin Durand in the 29. Braden Carroll in the 94 collected up as well, and I believe that was also the 71 of Alex Link just sneaking his way through. Not even 5 laps in, and already a bunch of torn up race cars.
Yep. Look, I mean, that's it. You got to make sure that you work. What was they talking about? Work your way in. Now that fuel window sort of changes itself up a little bit. Look, if I'm one of these leaders, I'm thinking, yeah, I can probably save enough fuel to get myself home here. Let's take that question mark out of the equation, though. Let's come down and grab those extra gallon or so worth of fuel. Let's make sure we get to the end of that stage. Why? I would rather be sitting in the position whereby everyone else around me has got a question mark over the name, and I don't.
take a look here at what happened. Now, Travis Daly, the reason I was going to talk about him was he actually, last season, finished second here at Kansas Speedway. And it was a 3-wide situation over in 3 and 4. That time, he just kind of, I don't know if he came up the track or if the 94 of Braden Carroll came down, but obviously both drivers wanted the same piece of real estate. Up into the wall they go, and nowhere for the 29 of Justin Duran to go either.
Oh, look, it's just a little, a little bit of. I talk about it when you're looking to try and settle down something like this nice and early. A lot of the time, it is literally just drivers need to organize their pecking order. They need to come to some sort of arrangement of who needs to be where, who wants what bit of real estate, like you said, all of that. And ultimately, you got two guys that wanted the same bit of track. Happens all the time. And the best thing that everyone can possibly do is just let it happen, So.
That car's on pit road right now, including Travis Daly and Braden Carroll. The good news for Braden Carroll is, of course, having that win from last week. That right now has him situated in a playoff position. We're going to ride on board with the 29 of Justin Duran to lay down just about the most laps in practice of any driver, and unfortunately for him, he doesn't even make it 5 laps before sustaining some damage in this one. And we got to point out as well, these drivers don't have the faster pair here in this league, and so they've got what they've got in terms of damage, and they've got to ride out the remainder of these 160 laps plus with this damage.
Yep, 100%. I mean, you called it. Yeah, look, they've got to look after their stuff. What was I talking about? Look after everything you got underneath you. Look after that rubber, look after that bumper, look after that rear end. Look after where you think you are on the racetrack and where you think you need to be on the racetrack. Well, unfortunately, there's a few guys that definitely are going to be winning some sort of motor race. What did I say? Whole bunch of leaders. I expected them to be down pit road. Guess what? I basically all went down pit road and said, thinking exactly the same thing. Let's just remove that question mark. We don't need the track position. We've been green for like, what, half a lap, 3/4 of a lap before the caution come out. So what did they gain? Yeah, they would have lost next to nothing, but now they've just sort of erased most of that question mark sitting next to that name. There is still going to be that little bit of a question mark there, but yeah, mostly gone.
Gary Peck is the only driver that elected to stay out. He will be the race leader when the green flag comes out this next time around. A limited number of starts for him this year has made 5 out of the 9 starts so far, 23rd in the point standings overall as a result. I'm not certain if you'd be able to save enough here under pacing to be able to make it the rest of the way. The thing that's definitely going to be detrimental to him, I think, though, is the fact that just in terms of pace that we saw in the early stages of this race, I don't think he's got a car that can hold off the 46, the 18, the 33, the 3. I mean, these guys have been running up here in the top 5 since the green flag dropped to start this race. So he might be a bit of a movie chicane here. We'll have to see how these drivers are, because we know the restarts here tonight, Kansas, are going to be crazy.
Yeah, they are. Cars bottled all up together. Everyone's drafting. Everyone's trying to build that momentum, build that run. So, look, here we go. Back underway once again.
And looks like it's going to be the 18 of Jacob Grant taking a look to the inside. Can't quite make it stick. It's going to be the highest right now of the drivers that came to pit road. Oscar Jensen behind him with Braxton DeWeese. Now, Grant's not going to waste any time. He's going to look to the inside of the 22. DeWeese going to go down there as well. That's teammates working the bottom group through 3 and 4.
Yeah, good job by these guys, really working together. So all of a sudden, 3 wide, coming to the main stretch. We've got the boys trying to, again, figure out who's where. Gary Peck all the way up there on that top line. Who's in the middle there? It's the 46 machine. That's going to be Oscar Jensen looking to make his case. And Jacob Grant, look, this race tonight is going to be something that's a little bit special to him. So, of course, he is going to want to be up there and in contention.
Absolutely. Jacob Grant running in honor of his mother's birthday today. She unfortunately passed away back in June of 2020, so honoring her here tonight. And how cool would it be for him to be able to go to victory lane? High Five Racing so far this season has 1 win. That's courtesy of Braxton DeWeese. They've got 3 cars in the field here tonight if you also add in the 19 of Cody Terry. So obviously for Jacob Grant here tonight, think about how big of a win that would be, not only to lock himself into the playoffs, but running that tribute here tonight for his mom.
Yeah, you bet. I mean, you know, it just engages all the feels, doesn't it? It really makes you feel like you want to be out there and you want to be on board with him and you want to be helping him as much as you physically can because, you know, the guy's clearly got something, you know, that close to him that unfortunately no longer with him, and I can definitely feel the empathy, you know. So, look, it makes sense to me.
Well, mentioned about the fact that Travis Daly finished second here 1 year ago at Kansas. The driver that he finished runner-up to is the 97 of Mike Tellier. Tellier, of course, last year was driving the 3. It was one of his 3 trips to victory lane during the course of that season. He has recently moved over from the now defunct team of, and now I'm all of a sudden drawing a blank of what the team was, but I know where he is. He's with Radius Racing. And you got to wonder, it's been a while since he's been to victory lane. His 3 wins last season were during the first half of the season. Was not able to find victory lane during the playoffs, despite making it into the postseason, and so far winless here. So is today the day that Mike Tellier finally breaks that winless streak and clinches himself a playoff spot via win?
Hey, who knows? I mean, he's had a rough season. He's not had it all his own way this season as opposed to last season. So, yeah, look, I mean, questions have started to be asked of the 97 machine and, you know, things potentially not going his way. I'm wondering whether or not he's not been able to put in as much practice as he would have liked is my question mark over him. So, you know, who knows?
And it took me 2 years to remember, but it was Luminary. Luminary Racing was the team that he formerly was with. Battle for second place, Jeremy Bushi running the inside line now. I was going to comment that the last couple of laps, he was actually running the highest in turns 1 and 2 than anybody. He was literally shaking hands with that safer barrier, but now he's migrated down to the inside portion of the track. And while you are able to make up ground, it's the shorter way around on that inside line. I think a lot of these drivers, especially the longer the run goes on, are going to push up, just like Braxton DeWeese right there, who almost brushed the wall off of turn 2. So you kind of run the top to avoid that situation, avoid the car getting tight. Oh, that Grant into the wall there. Saw some sparks off the right rear quarter panel.
I just saw Tellier dropping backwards as well. Tellier lost a huge deal of momentum, so I'm not sure what happened there for him as well. Look, I mean, so the way to think about this, look, like I said, I've been running a fair few laps again, trying to get my head around Kansas speed. You got to remember, I'm an Aussie, right? I have a passion for these sorts of things, but that's a late passion. It's only come my way in the last, let's say, 12 months, not even 12 months. So I've still got to learn a lot about these racetracks. What's the best way to do that? You get out there, you turn some laps, you fiddle with the setup a little bit. The car does different things. You see where you want the car to do. Right, so look, these cars to run down towards the bottom of the line on a fixed setup is definitely a little bit difficult, quite sketchy, and it takes a lot of finesse just to be able to keep the cars down there. With a little bit more of an open setup, these guys are probably still going to have a reasonably loose setup because you don't want those cars getting tight. You don't want them overworking the fronts or the rears. You know, fixed setup racing here this week, I found myself quite heavily overworking the rears. So Jacob Grant just brushed the wall actually in 3 and 4.
It's the second time that he's gotten up and into the wall. I believe also a couple of other drivers have brushed the wall, including the 3 of Braxton DeWeese, and I think maybe, just maybe, Mike Tellier could be added to that list as well. We see an exchange for second place. Ryan Seiberry getting around Jeremy Bushi. These two teammates mixing it up for the runner-up position, albeit nearly 2 seconds behind the race leader. And I'm pretty impressed here with Gary Peck. You know, obviously we're going to be taking some notes here early for later on in the race. Gary Peck was out there on 4-lap older tires than everybody else. Wondered just how much of a fall-up that would be. Obviously, not at all. He is currently holding on to that 4th position. Now, everybody that came to pit road, we should document as well, didn't take tires. So everybody was still on equal footing. But we kind of wondered if maybe, just maybe, with the heavier fuel load and just the fact that Peck was not running up inside of the top 5 prior to the only caution coming out, if he'd be able to maintain it. I think the answer is yes. So, you know, if everybody's still on equal footing as far as tires, there might be guys that will gamble to stay out, have that valuable track position late in this race.
Yeah, look, I mean, ultimately, I agree with what Gary Peck did there. Like, for a guy that was buried in the midfield, you know, ultimately him staying out at that stop was definitely a good thing in my mind. He earned himself a whole bunch of track position, and for what? I mean, maybe he was shutting that engine down under pacing, and maybe he was saving enough fuel. Who knows? We'll find out at the back end of this round, but he had nothing to lose by staying out there, so I agree. I think it was the best move for him. But then again, he's been able to stay up here, and it's not like he's hindering any of the drivers that are around him either. They're all running similar pace. You know, they might losing a little bit trying to pass him. They might be a little bit put out in terms of the way that they're running the car and what they're trying to do with it, and they might have burned up their tires just a little bit, and that's allowing Gary Peck to stay here. But ultimately, I've been impressed. Gary Peck has definitely held his own in this when he got the opportunity to be shuffled forward. So really, really good opportunity for him to ply his trade and show us his wares.
He is right now the highest running of NSM on the track right now, up inside the top 5. Looking at this great battle going on here between David Durand and Mike Tellier. Durand, teammate to the 97. The Radius Racing 2 is where David Durand is out of. Mike Tellier out of Radius Racing 3. And David Durand running those Hendrick.com colors here today that we saw Kyle Larson run at Kansas earlier on in the NASCAR event. I don't think that David wants to bring up the fact that in the final 10 laps of that Kansas race, Kyle Larson found the outside wall. Obviously, Durand does not want that to happen here today, but he's kind of been one of those quiet drivers that's been consistently inside the latter half, if just outside of the top 10 week after week, and that subsequently has him sitting 7th in the overall standing. So I mentioned the fact that we've had 8 different drivers go to victory lane, so about half of our playoff field is filled up with previous winners, but there are those that still are trying to have the goal, if they don't win, to at least point their way into the playoffs. Durand is one of those drivers.
Durand is one of those drivers. Braxton Deweese picked up a win yet? I think he did, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Yep, Deweese was
he did.
winner
He's the next
at Richmond.
Yeah, he was the next guy that I was actually going to be talking about. He drove a really good race, actually, remember. He's been popping through. I did actually see Deweese get really, really loose off 1 and 2, lost a bunch of momentum, and he shuffled himself down the order right now. So right now, again, remember, 2 stages worth towards this race, and then we go for the run home, right? So ultimately, Braxton's probably just going, okay, this car's just a little bit too loose. I'm not happy with it. Let's just bide our time. Let's drive the car a little bit more cautiously. Let's look after this thing. We can lose a couple spots here, but ultimately having that clean car is definitely a preference. So that would be his target right now as he starts to drift a little bit further afield. Having a look at our lead battle, Jensen's doing a great job, but ultimately, I haven't seen a lot from Oscar Jensen so far this season. So to see him out here in the lead by, what was that, 2.7 seconds? Man, he's just running away.
He absolutely is, and he is continuing to run very good lap times. He is one of only 4 drivers that last time by that ran a sub-32-second lap time with a 31.830. Now, bear in mind, that is a full 1.5 seconds off of his fastest lap, so we're starting to see the difference between those fresh sticker tires and the older Goodyears, as these drivers are now over 25 laps into this run since we started this race. The battle for the 4th position is really where it's all going on, as right now there's a good gap of nearly 3 seconds from first back to second, another 2 seconds from second back to third, and then about a 0.5 seconds to 0.6 from third back to 4th place. That's where you find David Durand trying to reel in Gary Peck. Now, we didn't broadcast last week's crazy race from Talladega, and in some ways it might have been a good thing because I probably would have been brokenhearted. The streak came to an end. Justin Belmonte's top 10 streak was finally snapped. He finished, I believe it was 12th in that Talladega race. He was trying to go for a perfect 9 for 9, but he's going to have to settle at 8 straight races inside the top 10. Trying to begin a new streak here. Right now in that 10th position is the 12 machine, and he's been the most consistent driver this season, which means that in the overall point stance right now, he is your overall points leader. So bear in mind, the regular season points leader gets those bonus points heading into the playoffs. Belmonte might be eyeing that as well.
Yeah, 100%. And look, I mean, with the season that he's had, again, it's the kind of seasons that you want to see these guys have. Look at the likes of Denny Hamlin. Man, that guy just cannot buy himself some luck, right? He's one of the best drivers out there, runs the most consistently right up on the podium, but he just cannot put his name in victory lane. I feel the same for Belmonte. I mean, the guy's just run a phenomenal season. He hasn't put a foot wrong. Like, that's the thing. When you look at Justin Belmonte, you look at the guy and you're like, has he put a foot wrong for me this season? Not really. I mean, he's had some top 10 finishes outside the top 5, but other than that, there's a reason this guy's leading the points. It's because he is driving so quick. Well, that's the thing, right? You can be quick and you can be consistent. He's mixed the two together. He's not been ultimately the fastest driver out there every single week. But when he's having an off week, it's not like, oh, he's just in the top, he's in the 20s. He's just out there circulating, completing laps. He's been still out there competing. And if you're going to win a championship, you got to do that. You can't just show up, and win a championship and go, yeah, I won one race and then I ran outside the 20 for the rest of the season. That's never going to win you a championship.
And he got so close, too, a couple of weeks ago at Richmond. Started on the pole, finished second place to Braxton DeWeese. He also ended up having a third-place run at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, another mile-and-a-half track. So I'm almost wondering right now if that 12 just might be saving his stuff, trying to keep himself at least inside the top 10, get himself a stage point or two. I'm almost wondering if we haven't really seen what he's got to offer because, he's got a teammate in Gary Peck up here that is really putting on a show. He's a teammate. Obviously, you've got to think that there's some information that is exchanged during the course of the week between teammates. So I'm almost wondering if that 12 car is playing possum right now, kind of adopting the strategy you talked about of save your equipment for that third and final important stage.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, look after those tires. You're obviously going to need another set to get through the next stage, but in that final stage this evening, you're going to have the extra set of tires. Is it going to come to hand? Yeah, look, I mean, 30-second laps, 2-second fall off, that's 15 laps, before that's almost a lap caught back up. So if he can find a window or there's something there whereby he can use those extra sets, he's got a clean race car. Maybe he's not 100% happy with it right now. He can make a few changes. The night's not just over. And that's the thing I look at about Belmonte as well. There's multiple times, I think, in the early stages we've seen him fall outside the stage points sort of buffer. He goes into the pit road, makes a few tweaks to the car, it handles a little bit differently, he comes out and looks 10 times better. So don't just immediately write this guy off. This is definitely one of those guys that can find the tweaks that he needs to make and get back out there.
Without a doubt. Oh, we got a car loose there off of turn 2. That's Braxton DeWeese. He's going to gather it back up. You saw a battle for the 10th position between Henry and Belmonte, but now with DeWeese having that near issue off the second corner, that now moves Belmonte back into 10th place, and Braxton DeWeese in a lot of trouble right now. We ended up seeing that the temperature here today, the track temp as opposed to the ambient temperature, 20 degrees plus as far as the track temp, up in the triple digits. So these drivers, as these tires wear down, the longer these runs goes on, they are going to be clamoring, struggling for grip.
Yeah, and look, until you've actually sat down and run the long runs as well, you can't actually tell which way your setup's going to go. I've had the same setup become really, really tight and then become really, really loose. The exact same car, so don't just immediately sit down and say, oh, well, we know what the car's going to do. It depends on the track conditions, like you said. It depends on the long run pace. It depends what you're doing with the tires. Are you overworking that front? Are you overworking that rear? I know all week long I was definitely overworking rears, so look, there's definitely a few tweaks to be made. I think right now Braxton's just going, I'm not happy with this. I've already done the damage. Let's just keep this thing clean.
Well, Oscar Jensen so far this season has 2 stage victories. Those were back at Bristol Dirt. And he, of course, was able to cap off the victory there as well, looking for his first stage win on a pavement-covered racetrack. And right now, he still holds over 3 seconds back to Brian Cybery, and he's only got 4 more circuits to make before claiming his 3rd stage on the year. Cybery in 2nd, and there's been a good battle for 3rd place here, too. David Durand, that 24 car looks like it's got some pretty good long run speed. In the last 15 to 20 laps, he has worked his way from 6th now up to the 3rd position.
Yeah, great job by some of these guys. So really, really nice to see them. Boucher was just on the radio saying he's struggling to run the bottom, so he's running out of grip right now. Duran's doing a really, really good job on his way forward. There's a few guys. Peck is starting to fall back. Look at Tellier. Tellier's actually starting to make his way a little bit further forward as well. But don't forget, remember, we still have that fuel question mark that we haven't solved yet, right?
And
so
there's the answer. Gary Peck's on pit road.
There you go. That's why. So all of these guys, everybody else has had that little bit of a splash. I think they're good. I honestly believe they're good because they can save now, right? They can save enough that they. Oh, Tellier in the fence off of 1.
To keep it straight, bring it back up onto the racing surface. He'll probably lose at least 6th here, or make that 5th place. Dylan Stipe, who is closing in a hurry,
that was a
is able to get the thing back up to speed. Fortunately,
that was a big hit on that front right. Man!
That might be an extended stay on pit road for the 97 when we end up having this stage come to a close, which will be in the next lap and a half. Tellier is able to, at least for the time being, hang on to that 5th position, 0.3 of a second over his teammate Dylan Stipe. And yeah, these guys all were 5 laps better on fuel than Gary Peck, so they should all make it back around. As the white flag in the air, if you will, for Oscar Jensen. This next time by, he will see the green and white checkered flag to complete this first stage.
Yeah, what a run from him as well. Like, these guys now have got to come out here and they've got to find something for Oscar. He has just had this all his own way. Whether or not he saved a lot more fuel than everyone else under caution, and that meant that he could push a lot harder, whether or not he burned off more fuel earlier on in the run and then sat back into the fuel saving mode a lot later on, who knows? You know, we don't necessarily have to be able to sit down and tell you those numbers, but what a run from him. Like, led the stage, 3 seconds is the margin, really just sat down, said, I know what I need to do to win this first stage, and he went out there and did it.
Caution out, stage yellow, second caution of the day, but first for a stage completion with Oscar Jensen winning. Brian Sybry was second. David Durand, Jeremy Bushi, and Mike Tellier completed the top 5. Dylan Stipe, Jacob Grant, Tim Henry, Alex Link, and Justin Belmonte will also get points in this first stage. Gary Peck having to come to pit road. He lost a lap under this yellow flag and will not get the lucky dog either. Cody Terry will be the first car 1 lap down under this yellow, so he will be back on the lead lap with the free pass. Gary Peck might have to rely probably on a wave around here to get back on the lead lap.
Take a wave around. Yeah, so that was what I was just thinking to myself. It means that he's going to be a little bit down in terms of tires and those sorts of things. But alternatively, he's going to have a little bit of a lighter race car. Ultimately, when you're coming off pit road with a couple laps like that to the end of the stage, you're not going to even bother pushing the tires. You're basically just going to try and heat cycle them, just sort of get them up to temperature and then bring them back down again, try and burn as little off in the tires as possible. Expect Peck to just sort of hang around at the back of the pack again. He'll probably just try and look after everything, see if he can get himself back into the lot of things, you know, in terms of the overall race. So right now, he's punished for not making that stop. I think, look, strategy-wise, I think he made an interesting call. It didn't work out. That's fine. You've learned a lesson. You've gone out there and you've learned a whole bunch about it. So,
might have possibly been planning for another caution to come out to save the couple of laps he was lacking there to make it to the completion of stage 1. Did not get it, as we only had 1 early yellow flag under that first stage and then green flag up to the end of stage 1 as drivers coming down to take on what will be their first set of tires here today. So they will have 3 sets still remaining when they finish up this pit stop. David Durand back there. That's actually the other Durand having an issue. And the 29, Justin Durand, trying to find his pit box. And that was actually close off the pit road there between Jensen and Sybry, nose to tail off the pit lane.
Telly is staying in. So like I said, that was a big hit to the front right-hand corner of his race car. He's going to need to get that cleaned up. So you got guys that are now trying to run the top lane with tight race cars over the long run. What do? Do they try and loosen these cars up? Do they try and transition some of that weight around? Look, honestly, they look like they had really glued race cars early in the run, which to me says they had tight cars, right? So they're going to loosen those cars up. They're going to make a few wedge adjustments, just try and shift the balance of that car around a little bit. It definitely looked as if Jensen wasn't getting exceptionally tight, so I really like the way that his setup was definitely working hard out there. So a few different options that we've got here in terms of the way that the guys can go. There was Braxton DeWeese, too loose. So he'll be looking to tighten that car up. So different options, ladies and gents. Let's see what they go with.
Braxton DeWeese and Matt Dyer with extended stays on pit road. So Matt Dyer might have actually gotten the wall during the course of that run as well. They're getting those repairs done. Let's see if we can talk with our stage 1 winner, Oscar Jensen. Hey, Oscar, it's Scott and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Yeah, what's up?
All right, man. Well, we saw you out here in stage 1. That thing looks like a rocket ship. Is it just perfect, or are you still kind of in the mentality that you might have to chase the racetrack?
I had to make a few adjustments there, and obviously track is going to change, and we'll have to see and keep up with the track so we can be out front and get that clean air advantage.
That's what I want to hear. Whenever a guy comes down pit lane after leading the race for such a long period of time and says, car's still not right, I'm making a few adjustments, he's going to go out there and win that stage. Does it give you a little bit more confidence, or are you still trying to find the car? Is this next stage just about working the car out again for you and making sure that everything's set up for that final stage?
Yeah, it's mostly just setting up for that final stage, and I know Brian has a pretty fast race car, and obviously want to beat him, so can't get slacking on them adjustments.
Oscar, so far this season, 9 races, 8 drivers to go on to victory lane, only 1 multi-time winner this season. So how important is it here now coming down towards the All-Star race and, of course, coming to the end of the regular season down that stretch of the schedule to be able to rack up more victories, rack up those playoff points?
Well, I had a late start on here, and we're just trying to rack up as many points and not lose too many here. And like you said, obviously you got the playoffs and All-Star to think, or like everything big coming up soon. So just trying to get momentum for that.
All right, Oscar, well, we'll let you get back in the zone. Congrats on your Stage 1 win. Maybe we'll talk to you, maybe sweep both the stages here today. Go get them.
Hopefully all 3, and yes, we will.
And if he is able to sweep the stages and close it out with a victory, it'll be the second time he's done it this season. Of course, did it, as we mentioned, back at Bristol Dirt earlier on this year. Oscar Jensen on point. Brian Cyber will line up in second. Alex Link now will be third, with Jacob Grant fourth. Justin Belmonte picked up about 5 spots on pit road, up to fifth. Jeremy Boucher in sixth. Chris Smith now seventh. Tim Henry, Keenan Massey, and Justin Durand are going to complete the top 10. Saw the 24 of David Durand make a late drop onto pit road, closing in on the 1 lap to green mark. So we'll follow up on that as he'll restart 11th, and stage 2 is underway.
Yeah, you know what that is? That's him just going, I want fuel options. I want to give myself options to run that little bit longer. So, look, I think it's the right call. I think the guy is attempting to give himself that little bit of flexibility. Who knows, Maybe he comes out at the back end of this thing, and after running those few extra laps over these guys with that clean air, maybe he's just got the best race car. Who knows? Honestly, Who knows?
Brian Cyber did not get going. He lost second place to teammate Alex Link, who now is under fire from the 18 of Jacob Grant. Looks like Grant's got really good fire-off speed on the short run. We saw his car kind of stall out, though, the longer the run went on. And we're going to see that during the course of the day. The thing I'm kind of wondering, though, is how much of a swing can you take out a race car if it's good on the short run, and you see what we just had in stage 1, where we had nearly 35 laps under green flag conditions. How much of a swing are you willing to take at a race car that's good on the short run to try and make it a long run machine, especially getting up to that third and final stage?
I mean, in this middle stage, I'm taking a big swing at the car, right? Because now we know what the conditions are like. Now we know that everything's sort of settled in. Now we know that the field is going to be doing long runs. We're not going to be trapping ourselves in any of this short run sort of business. So, look, I'm going to take a big swing at the car. Ultimately, the other option is maybe he just got himself caught up in air. Maybe he just got himself caught up a little bit in traffic. Maybe he wasn't getting the preferred line that he really wanted to. So, now I'm taking a bigger swing than I normally would at the car at this point in time, just purely because of the window that we've now got to test this thing out. If things go bad, okay, no worries. Did that help? Was the car better? Did I go too far? Yeah, sweet, no worries. We can tone that down. Or alternatively, I've gone too far. Let's return it to neutral, and then we take that smaller swing just to try and balance things back out again, find a race car. Look, this is the option stage, right? Ultimately, you see guys drift back during this stage because they're going, okay, we haven't got a good car. We haven't got a great car. Maybe we're up there, but we just want to find something. So let's have a crack.
Now it's looking like we have a couple of drivers that are off the lead lap. Brandon King was lapped under the first stage under green flag conditions. Gary Peck, surprisingly enough, we kind of thought he would take the wave around. No, he came down pit lane. He forfeited the wave around to get back in the lead lap to down pit lane, and he still is stuck a lap down in the 14th position. Cody Terry, who was supposed to be the free pass machine under the stage caution, he actually had an extended stay on pit road. It's now 3 laps down. Justin Durand has taken his car back to the garage, right now scored in 17th. Matt Dyer, I thought that he probably would be coming back off of pit road the same time Braxton DeWeese did not. He still sits on pit lane, 8 laps down in 18th, and we already mentioned Travis Daly out of the race in 19th right now. Braden Carroll, our winner from Talladega last week, has sat on pit road for nearly a half hour, right now holding down the 20th position.
Interesting. Really curious. Matt Dyer, I didn't think he'd slap the wall all that hard. Like, if he had, I'm sure it was just a brush. But, you know, that's an interesting one. Cody Terry, especially because he's influenced Gary Peck and Brennan King's potential races. You know, they confuse me a fair bit. I'm just keeping an eye on Braxton DeWeese as well. We mentioned he had quite a loose race car. Well, he's sitting right there at the back end, right at the tail end of the lead lap cars. Maybe he's taking a big swing at this machine. Maybe he's just trying to collect some data. Maybe he's just trying to find himself in the middle of all of this. But I tell you what, Alex Link is just going backwards, like it's going out of fashion. Are these guys might be fuel saving.
Well, I'm looking here at the pit stop times. I think he went with right sides only, because he spent only about 9.5 seconds in his pit stall. Everybody else spent anywhere from 14 to 15 seconds. I think we went with a two-tire strategy to the 71. That might be why he dropped as quickly as he has.
That's silly. Not around Kansas. Not for the length of green flag runs. No, come on. We're smarter than that, Alex. Surely.
Well, it is costing him. He has now dropped a last car on the lead lap in the 13th position. Braxton DeWeese just got around him.
He's been running 31s like he's really slow. He's half a second off the pace. So I'm wondering, Braxton may have slapped. You mentioned it, right? You saw Braxton slap the wall just a little bit. He's definitely tried to clean that car up. For sure, I'm looking at Braxton. I'm thinking the guy. He's definitely had to have. No, he had a short stop as well. Then again, he stopped again. Right, he stopped again. So that was just to get his damage fixed up. So that's why he stopped again. So I actually don't have data on how long his pit stop was. I think he's fuel saving. I honestly believe he's fuel saving.
We'll find out. We'll see if it works out for him. Obviously, at this point in time, he's going to have to manage the gap between himself and race leader Oscar Jensen, because he can't afford to fall a lap down here into green flag conditions. I'm not necessarily certain, even in fuel saving mode, if the race leaders are on his back bumper, then come to pit lane just before the end of this stage, if he would be able to get around past them for position and hold them off at the completion of stage 2, as Oscar Jensen opens up about 0.7 of a second between himself and Brian Cybery. And another driver that's up here right now inside of the top 7, I mentioned him in the running order for when we went back green, Keenan Massey, our Martinsville winner. We haven't really talked a lot about him since that win at Martinsville, but he's now popped up inside of the top 10, running very decently. He's been in a bit of a dogfight right now with guys like David Duran, Justin Belmonte, and Tim Henry.
Yeah, I mean, he's right in there in the middle of things, isn't he? But yeah, look, I mean, this one has been all controlled by SRD. You've got Jensen, you've got Cyber, you've got Bushi, all up at the front of this thing. So there's a fair few guys from that team that have clearly found something in terms of setup, and they've really nailed it out this week. But then again, they've been quite consistently always one of them right up at the pointy end of this thing. So look, they're doing a great job, so all power to them. I definitely think they've got Teams Championship on lock this time out. I mean, last season we were talking about the dominance of Luminary, how strong they were, how it was really requiring somebody to come and take it to them. Somebody's come and taken it to them this time out, so it's been awesome to see. And I mean, you mentioned it, Luminary no longer really a thing. Well, I think that might have been a big partnership of drivers that was really allowing them to come to terms with a setup early in the week, make the adjustments that they needed to, and get one of the fastest race cars. And now the guys that they're running with, you change teams, you change partnerships, and the roles that people are filling within those partnerships and those teams. You've got to change all those guys around. So they've clearly the rest of the field have got to find something in terms of who's working on setups and those sorts of things.
Okay, oh, we got a car. Is a car blowing up? Someone's on the apron blowing up. Not certain who that
Terry?
is.
I think it's Terry.
You're right, it is. Cody Terry coming to pit lane. No caution will come out as he got it down to the apron. So that could be evening over for the High Five Racing, as he was already multiple laps down. But Kansas Speedway last season was the 6th venue for these drivers. This season, it's the 10th stop on the schedule for these race teams. And coming into this race, of the drivers took the green flag here tonight, only 3 of them finished here in the top 10 1 year ago. One of them is now out of the race in Travis Daly, but the other 2, Mike Tellier, as we mentioned, the race winner 1 season ago. David Durand was the other. He finished 9th here last time out, right now holding down 6th place. So I gotta wonder. Obviously, you mentioning Team SRD really putting on a show right now, holding down all 3 podium positions at this time. But previous experience at this track, does that come into play for the 97 and the 24?
It does in the way that they look after their cars, but a lot of these guys as well, like just because they haven't been in this league specifically doesn't mean that these guys are inexperienced around Kansas. Like, given the way that Oscar Jensen is managing his race car, he's lost nothing over the long run, right? All the other guys around him sort of seem to lose, not a lot, but enough that he just continues to just motor on further and further and further forward. Like, I'm just having a look at the time differences right now. It looks like Jensen might be in a little bit of a conservation sort of a mood. Cybery looks to be the fastest car that's out on track at the moment. Bushi's starting to fall back from him. So the guys that are definitely up at the front, they've definitely got the experience. They know how to look after these race cars. Kansas as a whole, look, it does fit a little bit into that sort of cookie cutter mold, you know, but one of the benefits of it is you've got that multi-groove style of racing. So, you know, the ability for these drivers to choose what lane, when they're going where, and why. Yeah, so experience is definitely going to play a part into it, but just because you've got guys that have been out here in this league before doesn't mean that we've got guys that haven't got the experience around Kansas. I'm actually just watching Massey's. Massey's grinding around the wall in 3 and 4. Big impact!
And that's going to lose him a number of spots. He's going to drop from 8th to maybe outside of the top 10, as he is going to right now be scored in 10th place. We were watching a near wreck take place as well off of turn 4 as Justin Belmonte tried the slide job on David Durant. Oh, someone just pounded the wall up ahead of Massey. I think that is the lap machine of Gary Peck
22.
who
Yeah,
clobbered
it was
the
22
wall.
Peck. Yeah, I was just watching that as well, so.
Yeah, something's happened up to the 33. Brian Cyber, is he in save mode or did he hit the wall? He's dropped
Surely
back
he's
from
hit the wall.
2nd to now 4th.
I'd say he's gotten real tight and slapped the wall.
Grant got around him for 2nd. David Duran, the 24, is now moved into 3rd. The 33 is running the inside line, as is Jeremy Boucher. Are they yielding to other traffic maybe to save fuel? That's what I'm kind of wondering right now. They're not running the faster line. I think they're saving.
I reckon they are as well. I'm just sort of sitting here trying to listen to Cybery's engine notes, so leave that with me a couple laps. I'm going to try and do what I can. I mean, if you're going to save fuel, you got to do it from it. You got to pick your lap number and you got to go for it. Some of these guys will save right from the get-go. Some of them won't. Some of them will save a lot later in the run. I think, what are we, lap 66, the stage breaks at what, 80? So, yeah, if they're going to save quite aggressively now. I don't think he's saving. So I don't think Cybery's saving. I think he's on it. I think he's just choosing to run the low line.
Didn't put up much of a fight there against Justin Belmonte for that 4th position. And now Belmonte's going to run a little lower on the racetrack. So, is it possibly the concept of if we run the low line, we're running the shorter way around?
Who's that? Oh, sorry, that was Bushi. Sorry, my apologies. Yeah,
look at this.
potentially.
Now Oscar Jensen, that lead that he had. Now Jacob Grant's reeling him in. I think all 3 of the SRD guys are in fuel save mode right now.
Well, Belmonte Bushi has just gone flying past a few of these guys. So, remember how we were talking about Alex Link? You said you think he took 2 tires? Well, yeah, but the benefit is, he might be able to make the whole... Just because he took the 2 tires, he's definitely going to be slower around the racetrack, but that's also a more fuel conservational run around the racetrack. So, whilst he might be slower, if none of these guys decide to go into fuel save mode early enough, Cybery's pace is coming back to him, so... He may have had a couple laps where he needed to hit a specific fuel number, or it might just be the quantity of cars that are now around him that are helping him with the... You're right, something's definitely happening. I have no clue what that is.
I think what it is, if we look at our top 7, maybe 8, I think we're seeing a big game of cat and mouse. I think you're having some drivers that are saving at some points and then pushing it at others, trying to catch the others off guard who are also trying to save and push. I think right now it's kind of a, I'll pass you, you pass me, I'll save a little, you save a little, and they're trying to figure out who's going to have the fuel to make it to the end. It's all going to come down to who decides to mash the throttle and go first.
You know what happened? Bushi and Cybery, the teammates, have linked up. That's what Cybery was trying to do. He was looking for a teammate. He was out there punching the whole... Actually, he is saving. He didn't get the thing all the way into the gas the whole way along the front straight, so...
I don't think there's a driver in the field right now that isn't saving fuel, at least up here inside of your top 8, maybe 9. All the lap times are the same right now. The only drivers that are running in the 31-second bracket are drivers that are maybe a little bit further back that might have saved earlier in this race. Everybody right now is running in the 32.0s to 32.1s. Oscar Jensen just ran a 31.9, so he might have been able to save a little bit more right there, and now feels it's time to go as we're less than 10 laps away from this stage coming to a close. This is going to be interesting.
To be perfectly honest, Jensen, because he's out in front, he might just go the complete opposite strategy and just go for the no save, right? Which is, it makes sense. If everybody else is saving and everybody else is playing games with each other, don't play the games. Just don't play the games. Just go for it, you know?
It's definitely had the fastest car here today, has led a majority of the laps so far. He was the stage 1 winner, and when we talked to him, he said, I want to win the second stage and close this thing out with a victory as well. I want to be out in front this entire race. He's definitely got options. He's opened up half a second now between himself, Jacob Grant, and David Durand, who are battling for second place. But right now, the fun battles for the 4th position. Jeremy Bouchy, Dylan Stipe, add Brian Cybery into the mix, and just behind them, you got Justin Belmonte, who I think might have possibly brushed the wall off of turn 4 a couple of laps ago.
I'm really curious because the pace has definitely come back again out of Cybery, right? So Stipe just got actually really, really loose in the middle of 1 and 2 running the high line. So Stipe is struggling for a little bit of grip right now. The low line's not working. 100% the low line is not working. So a lot of these drivers are going to be fighting for middle or top. So it's going to be a difficult one. Cybery's definitely going for it again, and that's the difficult thing. I mean, you're a race driver, right? You hate seeing guys in front of you, so you're always battling mentally with that need to pass the guy at the same time as the need to save, right? So yeah, who knows? I mean, Cybery's tires could have just gotten a little bit hot, so we backed it down to try and save a little bit of time. It may not have even been fuel related. Who knows? We're not going to be able to tell.
Nope. We're up here. We're not able to be on the pit box and hear what's going on between driver and crew chief. It could be something entirely unrelated, but right now, I'm loving the chances of David Durand. He spent about 10 laps running in the draft of Jacob Grant. He now is on the throttle and trying to reel in Oscar Jensen, who I think might still be saving a little. And remember, Durand had one of the best long-run cars near the end of that first stage.
Yeah, he did. He really started to make his way forward, and he's definitely running those higher lines. So for everyone that's sort of tuning in, let's talk a little bit about why you would want to choose one line over the other. Bottom line, we all know that the inside of a corner is the shortest way around that corner. Does that mean that it's the fastest way around that corner? Well, if you can't hold your momentum, what's the point of being down there, right? Because all of a sudden you're going to build that back up. There goes Durand on the fence. So Durand's going to drop a fair way back now. Jacob Grant's going to go on by him. So Durand was trying to hold it down there, got tight on the mid-corner, tried to get back to the throttle too aggressively, and the car just ran straight up the racetrack. He's definitely faster than Grant. He's definitely faster than Oscar Jensen, but he's got to look after that car too. Right, so Highline. It's a little bit easier on the tires. So that's the main reason to be up there. The other reason is you don't have to turn into the corner as aggressively. The benefit of that is you don't have to wash off as much speed. The more speed that you hold on, the straights around here, the top, early on in this, you're running pretty much wide open. So there's multiple options to try and make it work. Jensen has shown that he has got a low-line car, and that's where his car functions the best. It burns off a little bit of the extra tire, but he clearly doesn't seem to be suffering from it.
The thing that I kind of think here, too, if you are able to run the inside line, even if your car is going to tighten up on you, you stay out of the throttle a little bit longer, that's extra fuel that you're saving. So while you're not really going to make up time, you're not going to make up ground, you are actually going to be able to save a little bit more fuel on the inside line than you would having to be in the throttle a lot more around the top side, since that's the longer way around.
Yeah, but then again, it depends. Like, the whole point of these cars is you want to go fast, right? It's not necessarily... How often do we go to road courses? We look at these things and we're like, these things don't turn well at all. They're not made for it. They are made for going very fast. And that's the big benefit of them. You have these big engines, right? That's the whole thing that you want to be doing. So the high line definitely allows them to maintain the momentum. So you can see, if you watch quite closely, the perfect thing to watch right about now is David Duran and Jacob Grant. So Duran's car is running better around the high line off of 3 and 4, but he gets such a big run on Jacob Grant that he really wants to get underneath him in 1 and 2 and make the pass. The problem is that right now, the momentum that he's losing to get to the high line is not equaling the benefit of the shorter distance around the track. He's losing probably 1/10 of a second by trying to run that low line. Jacob Grant holds on to all of that momentum, and then he gets back up on the straightaway, and he's so much faster, so he just runs away from him.
Grant got a nice run down the back straightaway, but I don't think he's going to be close enough to make a move out of turn 4. Stage 2 about to be complete. Oscar Jensen going to sweep the 2 stages here tonight at Kansas Speedway, and now we'll get set to try and see if we can close out the deal when we go back green flag racing, which should be with about 90 laps remaining here tonight. Jacob Grant will be second, David Duran third, Brian Cybery, Dylan Stipe complete the top 5, Justin Belmonte, Jeremy Bushi, Mike Tellier, and actually I'm now seeing Bushi dropping. It's like he actually was... Oh, there he is. Okay, I guess he was saving. He was messing up my telemetry there. He's 7th, Tellier 8th, Tim Hendry and Braxton DeWeese going to get stage points here in the second stage.
Jacob Grant's out of fuel. Duran's actually pushing him right now.
Look at this.
I think Jensen's in the same boat.
As if they didn't have enough bump drafting last week at Talladega, they got to do it here tonight at Kansas as well.
Oh, it's not bump drafting though. You don't run it that fast. Look,
I'm just saying,
right, so
if it comes down between Grant and Durand at the end of this race, I hope Grant remembers what took place on lap 82.
Yeah, me too.
A car on pit road already, the 55 of Chris Smith. I wonder if he might have possibly run out of fuel, as I didn't see him come down pit road of his own accord the lap before. Nonetheless, though, he has scored 1 lap down, as looks like the 22 of Gary Peck is going to be the lucky dog here under this caution, so he finally gets back onto the lead lap after he was a couple laps short of making it the distance back in stage 1. Oscar Jensen, very quick pit stop, down and away, easily going to be our leader when we go back green. Jacob Grant second. Tim Hendry going to come off in third with Braxton DeWeese and Dylan Stipe completing the top 5. That is a net gain of 5 spots for Hendry and 5 spots, or make that 6 spots for Braxton DeWeese. And
Link gained a bunch of spots there as well, so there's a fair few gainers out of that pit cycle. You know who lost majorly? David Durand. He's just coming off pit road now, so
possible that right side damage from getting in the wall, probably.
Did he push the wall?
Yeah, when he was battling for the lead. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, he clobbered it pretty good. Another driver that had a long extended stay was Keenan Massey, so I'm wondering if he might have gotten the wall during the course of that second stage as well.
Well, Massey was bumping and grinding along that wall, so yeah, it's possible. Look, yeah, Massey basically ground along the wall at one point when I was watching him there as well. So yeah, he definitely got in the fence. Tellier had that big hit as well, so his race car is not going to be as clean and as happy as it has been. I'm really happy with the way that Jacob Grant's been running tonight. Like you mentioned, he's got that really good long run sort of pace. He just needs to save a teeny little bit of extra fuel. So we did see the mind games go out there in terms of fuel conservation modes, and he did end up coming up that he had the exact right amount of fuel. And not a drop more.
Just enough to make it to the checkers, not enough for that pace lap.
So I think I think you're right. I think here's a big thank you to David Duran. Although David Duran's options were either to let him go and he has to tow back to pit lane, or accept the black flag. And I think Grant would have made him accept the black flag if he wasn't going to help him, which is fair enough. But yeah.
Well, we're going to have 13 cars on the lead lap when we go back green. Let's see if we can get a quick word once again with our Stage 1 and now Stage 2 winner, Oscar Jensen. Oscar, it's Scott and Seth up here in the F1 booth again. You got us?
What's up?
All right, man, so far 2 for 2 in winning the stages here, but you guys were only chasing the stage cautions at that point. Now you guys have to get yourself prepared for that official checkered flag, and it may come down to some green flag pit stops. So what's the strategy now?
Yeah, that was that stage came up to the last little bit of fuel. I hit the line with 0.3, and that was nerve-wracking. I hate being a crew chief and a driver. But moving on, it's just gonna be based off of luck and speed.
We were looking at Jacob Grant. He actually ran out over the line. How close was it? You said 0.3?
Yep.
You couldn't have gone another lap at all, could you?
Nope. Too scary. Too close.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing just how close it might be here. If you guys go green for this third and final stage, best of luck to you.
Thank you.
He will lead Jacob Grant to the line. Tim Henry lining up in third. Braxton DeWeese fourth. Dylan Stipe in fifth. And to his outside in row 3, Mike Tellier in the 97. Green flag set to fly once again. Third and final stage underway. It will be 90 laps in total.
Wells, all right, so we just had 2 40-lap runs. I think this is a 2 stops to the end. I don't even think it's close. I think we're pretty much guaranteed a 2 stops to the end. Look, can they do it? Well, we just heard from them, right? They're running out of fuel right on that 35. So that last stage, you got to remember, when that caution comes out at the end of the stage, that last stage is about 35 laps. They had to save a little bit. Well, they had to save a lot, to be perfectly honest, and they really had to stretch that thing as far as they go. Right now, what do I think they do? I think they go balls to the wall. You've burned off, what? You had 5 sets of tires to start off with. You've now burned off, you're on your 3rd set of sticker tires. So you've got enough. I mean, your second stop here. If I'm looking at these guys, I'm splitting this into 3. Let's go 30-30-30 for a 90-lap run to the flag. Why not? You get sticker tires. You've seen the tire fall off is anywhere up to 2 seconds, right? So you're making up that time that you're losing by taking the extra set of tires. The only downfall is if you get a caution. Well, that last stage, we've had 1 caution so far tonight. I don't think we're going to get it. I constantly...
almost got one there. 73, I believe. No, I'm sorry, it's a 72, and Henry's looping it. He was loose going into turn 1. Cybrey had to check up to let him gather it back up. He could not gather it back up off of 2. And the second time here tonight, a race incident will bring out the caution.
I mean, it's just a driver's track. Look, he's made a mistake. Perfectly honest. He's trying to race all these guys. Yeah, there's a lot of cars around, and yeah, it's not as clean as he would like. So, yeah, look.
Here's a look at it again. Yeah, he was in trouble going into turn 1. Just that was why I reacted. I saw the back end of that car around, and I thought for a brief moment he might be able to hang on to it. Look at the 33 of Brian Cybrey. Lift, try and let him gather it back up, but unfortunately right there, when he tries to overcorrect it, it's going to snap back to the left. He's going to spin it out, and as that car comes back up towards the racing surface, race officials have to throw the caution at that point of time. And I was going to mention what a great run Henry was having. Yes, he did end up gaining a lot of that track position on pit road, but this is a guy that comes into this race 11th in the overall standings as well, very much in the conversation of possibly pointing his way into the playoffs if he continues on the consistency he's had this year.
Up pace, like he's been in there and he's been around, and he's paired up with a few of these guys. I tell you what, he just barely taps the apron on the way into one. I think he actually Cybrey just barely nicks him at one point. So I think there's just the lightest little bit of contact, which is what finishes him off. So. Because just from the way I saw his car react, I think that's the way it went.
So, second caution of the night for a on-track incident. 4 cautions in total, counting the 2 cautions between stages 1 and 2 and 2 and 3. Oscar Jensen going to begin us back underway. I don't think we'll be seeing anybody come to pit road, at least for the race leaders. We did have a couple of drivers. I like to come down, top off the fuel tank. Alex Flink, David Duran, Chris Smith. So that's interesting. Brandon King, with this caution, is going to get back in the lead lap. So 14 cars will be on the lead lap of 15 running. And why that's important is the lowest you're going to be able to finish here tonight now is 15th place. Cody Terry, Justin Durand, Matt Dyer, Travis Daly, and Braden Carroll have all retired from the race. And, you talked about going all out here in this third and final stage. I think that you're definitely going to see drivers like Jensen, Deweese, Bouchy, Sybri, all those drivers that already have a win a win this season. It's all about racking up those stage points, all about racking up those playoff points now. I think those are the drivers you're going to see really be the gamblers and the aggressive ones, because what have they got to lose? They're already locked into the playoffs at this point. It can only get better from here.
I mean, you look at the guys that have definitely locked themselves in. What are they looking for now? They're looking for a little bit of bonus points to start themselves off on the playoffs. That's about it. You know, their season's done. They're locked in. They're happy. They're comfortable. They're still trying to learn their way around. Look, I mean, there's options here, right? Do you take a big swing at it? Do you go aggressive in the setup? Yeah, we talked about this all before. I mean, guys that have sort of been looking at themselves and trying to get the best possible thing that they can do right now. So Alex Link, David Duran, I actually think that these guys are in a really, really good position, because now they've offered themselves that flexibility. That next pit stop that they make is going to be quicker, because they don't have to put in that extra couple laps of fuel. What did they lose in terms of track position? Nothing. Why do they care right now? They really don't. They're looking at the long run. So I think they've potentially set themselves up for a podium. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know if they can match Oscar Jensen. He is just... that thing is so quick. It is so quick. But the other thing now is that Alex Link and David Duran might be able to one-stop this. Link's going to come back down. I actually think this is a wise move. He's topping off again. He's doing a good thing. Yeah, this is smart. This is really, really smart. He's got the option to one-stop this race from here.
We'll see how this strategy plays out for Alex Link. Gained 4 spots in the standings after Talladega last week, tied for 9th in the overall points with our Daytona winner Derek Schilling. There's a number of drivers, that we've already talked about that are former winners. There's a lot of drivers that also have just had very consistent seasons so far in the first 9 races that are certainly poised to make their way in on points if they aren't able to find victory lane before we end up getting to the playoffs. Justin Belmonte, we've already talked about him, Mike Tellier, but some other names that you might not consider being very consistent this season that are still there in the conversation as well. Jacob Grant, David Durant, Dylan Stipe, Alex Link, Tim Hendry. These are guys that are up inside the top 10 in points right now. They just haven't been able to put a crooked number in the win column.
Grant, for me, Grant's inconsistency is definitely the word that I would use to describe Jacob Grant right now. He's just had a few of those races where he's just been in the wars a lot, basically. Hasn't run the cleanest races, hasn't run the best races, and that's why he hasn't found his way certainly towards victory lane. He's definitely had flashes of speed, but remember, if you're going to win a championship, you need to have a little bit better than flashes of speed. Consistency is still important.
Oscar Jensen, he has led just about every lap here tonight, despite not starting on the pole position. He's going to lead them back to green flag racing. 84 laps to go here tonight. And, we end up seeing just how strong his car was, how far he was able to pull away back in stage 1. Fuel kind of drew him back to the rest of the race cars in stage 2. We're going to get to see now those adjustments that he made all the way back at the end of stage 1, if they're going to make him even faster. But he's got Jacob Grant right there in his back bumper. And how about the comeback by Braxton Deweese? Saw him in the fence back in stage 1. He's now moving to second place by his teammate.
Yeah, he's definitely taken those loose tires and he's going, just give me something new. I'm done with this setup. This is not where I want to be. So he's made some really, really good adjustments to his race car. Ultimately, I think Braxton Deweese has definitely had, again, the same sort of thing. Glimmers of speed, but not the overall, lock-in terms of speed. So once he can settle that car down, and he definitely looks like he is now, these guys get to get some warm tires underneath them. They'll be a lot better off. And like I said, my focus from now, I'm going to really be watching Alex Link. David Duran, for me, I think is really close to that one stop, but I'm not confirmed on he can definitely do it. Alex Link, I think might have the winning strategy here tonight. If we get another caution, throws all of that out the window. Forget everything I just said.
Jeremy Bush, he's going to move into second place. He's the only driver this season that has won multiple races. Got the win back at the 1.5 mile Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Followed it up with another win, another 1.5 mile at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Trying to go a perfect 3 for 3 here. Well, actually, it would be 3 for 4 in the 1.5 mile tracks they've been to so far on the schedule. Brian Sybri says not so fast. He's going to dive to the inside for second place. These two still in pursuit of Oscar Jensen, who's about to open up a second lead, and we're 3 wide back there. Mike Tellier stuck in the middle with Dylan Stipe to the outside, Gary Peck on the inside.
Yeah, but these are experienced guys, right? They can do this sort of thing. These aren't rookies. Don't just look at them and go, "Oh, 3 wide. Why'd you do that?" You know, this is a motor race, and definitely Kansas Speedway has got the potential. There's 3 separate lanes there, boys. You can run those all day long. You can run the whole thing 3 wide all the way around the track. Eventually, somebody will slowly lose out, but you know, it's one of those tracks that's definitely capable of doing it. I just watched Dylan Sipe actually get a fair bit loose on the entry to 1, so might want to keep an eye on him. Keenan Massey slowly getting caught by Alex Link, so Link has definitely got a fast race car. Remember that he's one of the teammates alongside of Oscar Jensen and Brian Cybery, who've been running this thing from the front nearly the entire day long. Well, actually, they have been from the entire day long. So has Jensen not led a lap? I think he's led every lap.
He led the first lap. I know that the laps he did not lead were the laps that Gary Peck led back during stage 1. He led, what, about 3 or 4 pace laps there, but I think every other lap has been led by that 46.
Yeah, so Alex Link is on the same team as these guys. He's got the same sort of setups. He's got the same sort of know-how. They'll be talking to him as well, and they'll be reminding him, hey, look, you've got a position to win this thing, Alex. Make sure that you keep that car clean. You make the overtakes that you need to. So let's look at things from Alex's spot right now. He needs to save a little bit of fuel. He does still need to save fuel to get home. That is certain, right? Everyone ahead of him is not in fuel save mode. These guys know that they're in a 2-stop strategy, right? So what does that do to his race car and the way that he's performing right now? Well, he needs to get a faster few of these guys. He still needs to run quick. Why does he need to do that? Because he needs to make sure that he's still in touch with the leaders. He doesn't let Jensen and Cybery just run away from this thing, because all of a sudden Brian Cybery's going, hey Oscar, I'm coming with you, buddy. Let me just latch onto the rear end of your race car.
That's some good battling back here, midway portion of the field. David Durand in that mix. There's Alex Link in the 71. Braxton DeWeese has actually dropped back now from as high as 3rd now to the 8th position. You know, an interesting thing I was just thinking about, these drivers had those 2-stage cautions, and why those cautions were important were if you got up into the wall, got yourself some right side damage, you had that yellow flag to be able to fall back on, to be able to spend a little bit extra time on pit road, not fall off the lead lap, get that damage repaired. Let's say we go green flag from here on out and you go up and slap the outside wall. You come down, make a pit stop under green. Do you have to spend that extra time in your pit stall getting that damage repaired, or can you get away with it? Just put on the 4 tires, go out there and deal with the damage you had.
With the stage cautions, yes, yeah, you want to be getting that damage repaired. What you're going to do is you're just going to burn up that front right. It's going to make your car get tighter and tighter and tighter over the long run. So that's really not what you want. So any damage to the right hand side of the car basically acts a little bit like a parachute. Not a huge deal. You will get away from it. It won't get too far away from you, sorry, if you're still running in the draft around the other guys. But the instant you start to run out on your own, that's where it starts to become an issue. So other than that, it's mainly tire wear, tire performance. Anytime that you get a scrape or a bit of car that's sort of hanging out in a different way, what that does is it affects the airflow over the entire car. The cars are designed so that they're spreading the airflow, spreading what the downforce, right? Because anytime that there's any sort of device or the shaping of a car that's forcing the air to go up and over, what that's doing is pushing the car into the road. The instant that you have, say, a bit of the car that's not as uniform, you're creating an air pocket. What does that air pocket do? It's not creating downforce. When you're not creating downforce, you're losing grip to the guys around you. Just watch Gary Peck get into the fence on the entry to 3 and 4. Forced Alex Link to check up. Yeah, so air pockets aren't, whilst you're not losing downforce, you're not creating downforce, and it's not like you're running like a parachute that's forcing the air down and underneath the car, which is lifting, up like an aeroplane. So it just works your tires a little bit harder, and ultimately that basically you might get away from it, and it might be not a problem on a short run, but over a longer run, that's where things really sort of become an issue.
Hey, one of the things that's kind of interesting about tonight's race in particular, whenever we go to these 1.5-mile tracks, we always talk about the pressure that's put on that right front tire, the tire heat buildup. But these drivers actually have to not only deal with that. I was talking with our broadcast colleague Matthew Rodriguez here tonight, and he said just based on the way the track conditions are and the way that some of these setups are, a lot of the pressure also goes to the right rear tire, and that thing gets worn down. That's going to cause that back end to want to step out, especially on corner exit. Could be a big reason why on these long green flag runs we start to tally up the drivers that get the outside wall on corner exit.
Yeah, I mean, there's 2 ways the car can go, right? So So you got to remember, I'm a road racer primarily. So I'm going to when I talk about these things, I'm going to call them, understeer and oversteer. Basically, oversteer just means the rear of the car coming around, car getting loose. Understeer, you turn in the rear in, and the car's just not turning as much as you're turning the wheel in, getting effectively tight. The car doesn't wobble around. So what you actually want in terms of a race car is you want the rear end to pivot. Why do you want the rear end to come around? Well, the rear end doesn't ever come around. You're never going to turn the car. You need both the front and the rear end. And remember, cars only have wheels that turn at one end of the car. Why do you see forklifts with their turning wheels at the back end? Because it's actually easier when you've got your turning wheels at the rear of the vehicle to make the car turn. Why don't we do that on most cars? Because the front wheels having the turn creates more stability. Cars don't turn as well, creates more stability, right? That's the main reason. Now, if the car doesn't pivot, doesn't turn, what happens is you get basically your left side of the car should be running slower than your right hand side of the car. That's how tanks turn. That's what's known as skid steer, effectively. So what you're trying to create is a car that's either going to create that speed differential at one side of the car, or that is nice enough to just sort of lean on the front of the car and just sort of come around really nicely. Banked ovals obviously help that. They tilt the weight, it goes to where it needs to be. Whenever the weight's on the outside of the car, it helps to put the grip on that side of the car, which means you can put a little bit more throttle in. That car will speed up as it comes around, basically. So, all of that in mind. Now we've had a physics lesson, right? We've had a car physics lesson. Why do you want a car that's a little bit loose rather than a little bit tighter? When you turn that wheel in, the whole car wants to rotate around. You just sort of got to try and find that balance point. We always talk about the guys that are like, yeah, I've got a really, really balanced race car. It's driving well. What that means is the car wants to pivot. It doesn't want to pivot too far. Or if it does want to pivot too far, you can control it through application of what's in front of you. You got a steering wheel, you got a throttle, you got a brake pedal. Ultimately, Kansas, we're never really going to touch that brake pedal because the track is long enough, the corners are wide enough, you can really just stay in the gas. So you want a car that's going to pivot, but that's still stable in terms of setup. You do that through ride heights, you do that through tire pressures. Why is ride heights important? Basically, if you jack a corner of the car up, what that's doing is shifting the weight of the car away from that corner. It's like sitting on a ramp. The car, if you were to sit a wheel on a ramp, it wants to run to the lower end of the ramp. That's basically how you're thinking of it. It's kind of a little bit more different because the car's in 3D instead of just a straight ramp, So different little things like that. When the car's getting tight, the other thing that does create is you'll tend to wear the front corner of the car a little bit more because the way that you want to try, it's natural. You want to apply more steering angle. When you apply more steering angle and the car doesn't turn, you scrub the tires. Basically, you're turning them at an angle and the car's not going that way. So basically, the tires are running across the road at an angle, which just wears the surface of the tire away slowly. Same thing with the rear, except the rear of the car, you don't turn the wheels, you do it with the throttle. So whenever the rear steps out on the car, you wear because you're creating more friction in the car at the rear because the car is skidding across that surface and sliding across that surface. That's race car physics, ladies and gentlemen. That's how the thing works.
Didn't get all of that. Scott will probably write a book and autograph it for you. You can get it on Flatout My goodness. Take a breath there. Take a break.
I love physics. I love the way these things handle. Basically, they're just a big mathematics and physics puzzle, and then you pull it out of the book and you sit down and go, okay, that doesn't match that. Now what?
And then you've got me, who graduated high school and swore that since I got through that, I would never do another math question in my life. So, yeah, polar opposites. Got this battle back here for 5th place, and it has been going on for the last 10 laps with David Duran, Mike Tellier, Alex Link, Justin Belmonte, and Dylan Stipe. And we actually almost had a couple of times where a yellow almost came out. Durand almost pushed up into Belmonte at one point, almost came off the nose of Alex Link. They've been able to keep it together, get a little bit spread out at this point in time. But the most important thing I'm watching right now, they just completed their 31st lap, I should say, on this stint. Remember, the number we were given was 36 laps, about the furthest they could go. Most of these drivers able to go about 38 laps. Jacob Grant about 37 3/4 laps on a tank of fuel. So they're getting close to that window when they're going to have to come down pit road for the first time tonight under green flag conditions.
Hey, here we go. This is where all the fun starts. I'm actually got my eyes on Mike Tellier and Alex Link right now. Duran's just running away from them a little bit. So Tellier is doing a great job. His car, as the night has gone on, has gotten faster and faster and faster and faster. So Link and Tellier are actually doing quite a good job. I think they're actually some of the faster cars on the racetrack right now. As I say that, Tellier just barely brushes the wall. Link doesn't want to lift. Gets enough space, gets underneath him. So remember, Link had that earlier pit stop, right? We've already had a pit stop for Alex Link. We've already had a pit stop for David Duran. These are the guys that I'm watching now because they don't have to save as much fuel to guarantee that they get home. Alex Link, I think he's committed to the two-stop strategy. What he's doing, though, is if he runs longer now, that means he's going to have better tire condition. Undercut, what are we talking about? Tire fall off, right? 2 seconds a lap is the tire fall off window that we're sort of looking at. So somebody comes down to the pit road, a couple laps before him. They are running 2 seconds a lap faster after that period until he comes down pit road. What happens, though, is that their tires are going to be 1/10 to 2/10 slower for the remainder of that tire stint. Can you make that up? It's going to take 10, 20 laps to do it, but yes, you can if you can look after your stuff. That is an undercut. That is an overcut.
Mike Tellier, as you mentioned, almost get up into the wall. Saw just before that off of turn 2.
Oh, Duran got wiggly. He got tight, then he got loose, then he wiggled it a little bit, but he managed to save it and keep it off the fence. So Alex Link is going to creep up on him.
Here's our first driver to pit road. Dylan Stipe in the 4, a driver that was in the Final Four for the championship last season. Talladega winner from last year is going to come down pit lane. So this is obviously one of the drivers that is on the two-stop strategy from here to the checkered flag.
Yeah, there's no way he can. That stop will get him home. He's miles and miles and miles short of getting that car home. Now, remember what I said, right? So we're talking about tire condition. What's the best way to go fastest around the racetrack for the longest period of time? It's by preventing yourself from running on really, really old rubber. This final stage is broken up into 90 laps. So out of that, if you're going to burn all the sets of tires and you think that the thing's going to go green, I would be pitting 30-30. That's what I'm looking at. That's what I'm holding myself to. That's as far as I'm going to run. Now, that means that both of my pit stops are going to be... My first stop is going to be a little bit shorter than everybody else, but my second stop is probably going to be a titch longer just to make sure that I'm fueled to the end. What it does mean is that I'm getting the most I possibly can out of all sets of my tires. We get a caution at any stage, I'm screwed in terms of tire strategy. If you stretch this as long as you can possibly go here, and at the last one, you're going to leave yourself with a set of extra tires in the bank that you can potentially use if we end up with ourselves a late race caution. 10, 15 lap run, you are going to be out there with the best tires. Do I think that's going to happen? I don't. I honestly would be going with a 30-30 strategy.
Preston DeWeese, Jacob Grant, Mike Tellier, Justin Belmonte on pit road a lap ago. Here's the leader on pit lane, and he's all by his lonesome.
Jensen's looking to just sort of buy himself a ticket past Cybery. He wants to create that buffer. So remember what I said. Does Cybery come this time by? I think Cyber actually might.
See if he's going to indicate coming down pit lane as he holds almost 3 seconds back to Bushi. And yep,
he is.
Here comes that 33 Camaro onto pit road. Bushi's going to stay out an extra lap.
I was just watching the Bushi's out. Alex Link. Alex Link should be the last of this lead group to stop. So remember, he's giving up track position early in this run to try and buy himself a faster race car. He's made his way through this pack. Honestly, he's been one of the fastest cars on the track for this entire stage. He's just had to come from such a long way back that we haven't been able to see his race car compete with the best. Again, I'm putting money on Alex Link might have a shot at winning this race as Bushi goes to the lane.
And he came down pit road very conservatively, did Jeremy Bushi. Almost went down to the apron between 3 and 4. Most drivers don't even hit the apron until they come out of the final corner. So we'll see if that's going to cost him some time on entry. I'm a little surprised Alex Link's the only driver up here inside of the top 7 that stayed out this long. I expected David Duran to do the same because both he and the 71 came down pit road to top off the fuel tank back on our last caution.
Link's in.
And he will dive onto pit road. It's going to leave Gary Peck, Brandon King, and Tim Hendry still yet to pit. And Peck will not come down this time. So a driver that rolled the dice back in stage 1 to lead a couple of laps will lead a few more here under green flag conditions.
tell you what, I reckon Tim Hendry's going to try. So have a look at the SRD drivers and what they've done with their pit stops here. They've staggered them, right? They want to have drivers undercutting and they want to have drivers overcutting. What they're basically saying is, no matter which way the pit strategy goes, we've got this unlocked. We've got the driver that was first to pit lane. We've got drivers that are going to be last to pit lane. So these guys have got the strategy covered completely.
Why is Gary Peck in the 22 staying out? Well, you saw right there Dylan Stipe go around him. He's now the last car on the lead lap in the 6th position. So if a caution were to come out, all these drivers behind the 22 would be trapped a lap down and have to rely on a wave around in terms of if a caution were to fly right now. They're hoping this thing continues to go green, and if the 22 will have to hit pit road, Brandon King, and Tim Hendry. Still the last driver to pit. 22 is pitting this time, I think.
Yeah, Brandon King just got by on the lower side of... I wonder if Brandon King was actually trying to get to the pit road that time by. Alex Link actually had to go back underneath him in the corner to get back by, because you got to remember that when you come out, you've got, like we were talking about, 2 seconds a lap worth of extra tire pace, right? So the issue is that if you pit, you've got to get by these guys. Where are you going to go? Well, Link clearly wanted the lower side of this thing, and Brandon King, I think, wanted to go to pit road that last lap. I think he was lucky enough that he had enough fuel to go another lap. Otherwise, I think he was dead. It's just completely gone in terms of fuel. So, no, King's still out.
He ran low. I thought he was going to pit, but no, he's going to stay out an extra lap. Tim Hendry, the 72, right behind him as well. We're still waiting on both of these drivers. Now, I'm trying to figure this one out here. Oscar Jensen had a 2.8 second gap between himself and Brian Cybery before the pit stops began. It's now 4 seconds between those two, with Jensen running third and Cybery running fourth. According to the telemetry, Brian Cybery from pit road entry to pit road exit was half a second quicker. I'm trying to figure out where Oscar Jensen gained his time. It would have to at least have been maybe on attacking pit road, or his ability to get off pit lane and merge back into the racetrack quicker.
Yeah, one of the two. So, I mean, the other option is that because Jensen was a little bit further up the racetrack and he come out earlier, he's out in those tires. There's 1 lap in it. There's nothing in it. Why is Jensen just gone back to the lead? Oh, he's just gone... King down? Yeah, Brandon King's down. Okay, that makes more sense. Brandon King, Tim Hendry just come to the lane right now, so those guys are going to be quick for the next 30 laps or so until we start to see that last round of pit stops happen. So, Oscar Jensen, why is he so much further ahead? Yes, pit lane entry is one of them. I'm going to bet that it's actually where he come out in the racetrack. He actually come out free of traffic.
Based off the calculations, nobody make it the rest of the way on what they've got in the tank. So, the question is, if we have about maybe 36 to 38 laps these drivers can make it on fuel, that means they're about 10 laps short. So, if your guys up here inside of the top 6, 7, 8, do you come down pit road maybe halfway through this stint, say with about 20, 25 laps to go, or do you try and run this thing out of fuel, take the shortest amount of time on pit lane? And if you do that, do you maybe go with right sides only, because you're only going to have to run, 10 laps, maybe gain a little bit of track position on pit road with that?
Okay, so here's the thing. Alex Link is best positioned to know this sort of thing, because remember, what maybe Braxton DeWitt... Oh, I think we might be getting yellow! No, they saved it! They saved it!
Grant and Tellier somehow keep it together. Tellier didn't even hit the wall. He migrated, 3 grooves up the racetrack and never got the outside safer barrier.
Oh, I was lucky. I was just about to say, I think we're about to get our third caution of the night caused by on-track incidents. Whew, that was lucky. Dylan Stipe has actually bought himself a really, really fast race car. At what point? Who is he paid? I don't know who he bought that race car from, because he hasn't been up here all night, and all of a sudden he is. Okay, so... Yes, I would be pitting early, and again, the reason is I don't want to be running on older tires, so I would be pitting early. I'd be splitting it in half, right? That's what I'm trying to do. Why would I take right sides only? Well, Alex Link ran it. He was about a second a lap slower than his optimals under green flag conditions, just taking those right sides only. So do I think it's worth it? Honestly, I'd say you're gonna take a few extra seconds on pit lane. You're gonna make that up in 3 or 4 laps. You know, it's not going to be a huge deal to take those extra sets. So I think if you're coming down pit road, I think you're taking 4.
Oh, we got a car on the wall there through 3 and 4. That's Dylan Stipe. He's going to drop back at least to 5th place, and Alex Link has now moved up to 4th. The thing that's really jumping out at me, drivers ahead of him are running 31 1s, 31 2s. He just ran a 30.7, and he is a driver that can stretch it further than anybody else inside of the top 5.
Yeah, so all of these guys that I think Alex Link is going to come to pit road 2 laps after the Jensen does. He's going to be watching. Remember, so the top 4 drivers right now are SRD teammates. So right now, what happens with the teammateship? Out the window. Goodbye. See you later. These guys will be released to go race each other. So who's won races out of this? Cybery's won a race. Bushi, both of these guys have run a race. So it's Link
and Jensen.
And
three of the 4.
So of these guys, like if team orders come into the play, it'll be to get either Alex Link or Oscar Jensen a win. To be perfectly honest, Oscar Jensen, I think, is going to lose this race just based on his pit strategy.
We're going to wait and see as Link tries to get the inside of his teammate Jeremy Bushi. 3rd place. Alex Link coming off his best finish of the season, 2nd place last week at Talladega, and these drivers look ahead to next week when we're going to be going to the track Too Tough to Tame, Darlington Raceway. Everybody going to be breaking out those throwback schemes, and obviously that's a track that you want to have good momentum going into. Right now, Oscar Jensen trying to complete the sweep. He did it back at Bristol Dirt, won both the stages and won the race. He's trying to do it here today at Kansas Speedway. So far, winner stage 1, winner stage 2.
So Jensen's into the playoffs.
Jensen's already in. Three of the 4 Team SRD drivers have won. The only one's the odd man out is Alex Link.
He's got a quick race car. Basically, Link just needs to find his way past Bushi. Whether or not he's saving tires right now. So when he's in clear air, or when he's running around guys that he can just get by nice and easily, he's being 0.4, 0.5 of a second faster than the guys up ahead of him. Right now, just because he's bottlenecked up in behind Jeremy Bushi, and him and Bushi want to run the same lines, because remember, these guys are on the same setup. These guys are working together. So there's a couple things that are coming to mind here. Alex Link just tapped the wall off the 3 and 4, so he's getting a little bit tight on entry. Could be from running in the same groove, same lane, same pace as his teammate up ahead of him. Didn't have enough aero on the car to actually be able to get the thing around the corner. So now he's got aero damage. So that's something he needs to factor in again. Number 2, he needs to build a run to get past Bushi. Bushi's just not going to let him have it. No. The leader is 9 seconds up ahead of him. So not a huge... Actually, he just ran half a second faster than Jensen. So something happened to Jensen on that last lap.
Dealing with traffic, I think, because you just saw Tim Hendry go around to get back in the lead lap, and Brandon King's trying about to do the same to get back in the lead lap. Both these drivers, the 89 and the 72, have 8-lap fresher tires than the race leader, so it might be dealing with dirty air that's slowing down those lap times on the 46.
So a couple things to think about is if Bushi lets Link by, because okay, so let's look at this in terms of numbers. Lap numbers at the pit. Jensen, Cybery, Bushi, Link. That's the way I'm going to read them off. 119, 120, 121, and get this, 122. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, he's got it. Has he got it this time by, Link? I think he's got it.
I think he might. Let's see if he's able to complete the pass off of turn 4. He's going to tuck up in front. Easily clears his teammate in the 73. So move Link now up to 3rd place. He's got about 6 seconds. He's defending that high line. He's got 6 seconds to make up there on Brian Cybery. But again, the question is right now, you talked about it, about 2 seconds to be gained on fresh tires to old tires back when we had that round of green flag pit stops. If Alex Link comes down after all the rest of his teammates do, is able to hang on to that 3rd position, does he have enough time to be able to make up whatever distance is going to be between him and the 2 teammates in 1st and 2nd?
Well, that's interesting. So right now, this time by the stripe, from here onwards, we're going to actually see what Alex Link's car is capable of right now and what the differentials are. Yes, Jensen is in traffic. Yes, he's dealing with that. Tim Hendry's around him and probably got a lot fresher tires because Tim Hendry was one of the last cars to pit overall. So along with Brandon King, Brandon King's actually tucked right up in behind Jensen this time by. So Jensen's going to have a slow lap. So again, we kind of don't really get a full marker of what Alex Link is actually capable of in terms of his lap pace, but this will go a long way to telling us who is who in terms of overall speed. He's running the top 4 run identical lap times that last time by. So that's not enough.
Another way this traffic is hurting Oscar Jensen, remember I mentioned it was about 4 seconds between himself and Brian Sibry when the pit stop cycled around. But it was beforehand was 2.8 seconds. It's now been cut down to 2.8 seconds again. So Brian Sibry, who's not having to deal with any traffic around him right now, is very quickly reeling in Oscar Jensen. And Jensen's between a rock and a hard place right now because he doesn't want to let the 89 on by and allow the 33 to close in. But definitely that Brandon King machine is affecting his lap times.
King's not from I'm just watching the lap times, like King's not really got a huge deal on him, so there is that. I actually think Brandon King's in the slower car, so eventually King will shuffle back in once tires start to play themselves back out. Actually, Link is running quite quickly at the moment. Yeah, he's starting to make those tires work a little bit better once again, so Boucher's going to start falling back off the rear end of him, which is now half a second, so he's rubbing the fence. He just barely touched it. So I don't think he lost too much out of that, actually. He lost 0.3 of a second.
Already had some damage there. You can see on the right front of his machine as he'll fan by the camera there through 3 and 4. So I wonder if that might be playing a factor in that car getting tight through the center and putting him up into the wall. At that point, Kansas is one of those strange tracks where there's a razor's edge. The fastest way around the racetrack is right up against that wall, but there's little room for error. If that car gets loose or tight, that wall is going to suck you in.
And you can actually see him immediately makes the adjustment, comes down half a lane on entry, just to give himself that wiggle room until he's happy with the car once again. It means, yeah, sure, he has to drop a little bit out of his lap time to be able to do that, but, ultimately, it's like you said, risk versus reward. So, look, I mean, makes the adjustment immediately, and good drivers are always going to do that. And Alex Link, from my part, I've always seen a good driver in him. So,
well, mention the fact that Jeremy Boucher. Oh, Alex Link, hang on to it, buddy.
He did.
Wow.
He's pushing hard, man. He's trying to drive this race car as hard and as fast as it will go. And unfortunately, if he wants to win this race, he has to push, and he's starting to make the errors.
And that time, it nearly cost him. Fortunately, all that run-up on the back straightaway, allowing him to gather it up, hook it back right, and keep it going. He will lose 3rd place to his teammate Boucher. You mentioned that Boucher was the winner at 2 of the half-mile-and-a-half tracks here this season, Las Vegas and Atlanta. Brian Sibry was the winner at the other Homestead Miami. So right now, with Oscar Jensen leading the way, Team SRD looking to go a perfect 4 for 4 in their drivers, winning at the mile-and-a-half track so far on the schedule. Just saw the 3 of Braxton DeWeese on pit road. I have to assume this is unscheduled, but it is within the fuel window to make it the rest of the way.
Braxton DeWeese is he's rolling the dice. He's got to. If he wants to get himself a good finish, he's got to throw the dice. He's throwing them early. Oh, Link's in the fence again, off at 3 and 4. So he's struggling. He is really, really struggling now. Jensen and Sibry is starting to close up together. Sibry's got a really fast car right about now. I think actually Sibry is the fastest guy out on track.
That time by, he ran maybe 400 slower than Oscar Jensen, but right up there on the top side through 1 and 2, looking for his 2nd win on the season, looking to join Jeremy Boucher as the only 2 as multi-time winners. Oscar Jensen obviously trying to do the same there in the 46. Braxton DeWeese has lost 2 laps with coming to pit road when he did. He'll at least get one of those back when everybody comes down pit lane, but he's one of those drivers that can take that kind of a gamble. He's got to win back at Richmond. He's locked into the playoffs, and I think there might be a couple of other drivers you'll see duck onto pit lane here in the next 5 or so laps, maybe try and roll the dice as well, that have already won, because there's nothing to lose and everything to gain. Yep,
there's a lot to do. So, look, here we go. We'll see what happens, man. There's a lot to go, so... Link is struggling. Link's going to be in the fence again. Just trying to hold as much speed as he possibly can. Look, if you're going to win these kinds of races, look at the competition that he's surrounded by. Jensen, Sibry, Boucher. We know about the speed of Sibry and Boucher. They've come out here and they've shown their class week in, week out. The thing I've definitely seen Alex Link be, at times, the best and the fastest driver in the field. Again, he's another one of those guys that consistency has not been there. Actually, I'm just seeing Keenan Massey might have been down pit road as well.
Yep, Oscar Jensen's in, Mike Tellier, Justin Belmonte. So we're starting to see drivers come to pit lane with 25 laps to go. Remember, Mike Tellier was the winner of this race 1 year ago, led 49 of the 160 laps in that one. Hasn't led a single lap here tonight. Trying to see if this strategy might be able to get him his first win of the season. It turns the race lead over to the 33 of Brian Sybry. Gary Peck just dove onto pit road, as well as the 47 of Keenan Massey. Here comes the 33.
Link's going this time by. Bushi's going another lap.
So who's got the race-winning strategy? She an extra lap for him. David Durant's going to stay out an extra lap. Jacob Grant stays out an extra lap as well in the 18 machine. Those are your lead lap cars, as Dylan Stipe is on pit lane this time. Gary Peck in the 22 just now making his way onto pit road.
So you got to remember, guys that are going to have a shorter stop this time by are going to be the guys that ran the longest on the last stint. So that's going to be Gary Peck. And who was the other one? Tim Hendry. Tim Hendry ran very, very long on that last stint. He's had a very, very quick race car the last few times by as well, because obviously he has got lap 126 was when he pit. So I think it's going to be the same for Peck. Was before he made his previous stop. So the last two stints for Peck are actually going to be really, really short. So keep your eyes on Tim Hendry. I think Tim Hendry is going to be one of those last guys to go to pit lane.
Look at this. Jacob Grant. Oscar Jensen in the 46 is going to already unlap himself around his teammate Jeremy Bushi. I was thinking with these guys coming to pit road with 25 laps to go, there's absolutely nobody that's going to roll the dice for a two-tire strategy. If it were closer to the end of the race, like maybe 10 to go, 5 to go, then yeah, absolutely. Come down, take on just enough fuel to make it to the end and put the right sides on. If Jeremy Bushi is planning on doing that, I'm not even sure it's going to win him this race. The fact that Jensen was just then able to get around, put himself back on the lead lap, and the lap times he is turning right now, I think the 73 is dead in the water.
Yeah, he's got a lot to do, man. I mean, Bushi, all power to him. Like, he's got to commit to his strategy. He's got to also commit to what is the amount of time that he's willing to give up. And he's got to monitor those lap times of Jensen. Because Jensen, remember, Jensen's gone very early on. Jensen's been, I think, one of the first cars to pit on the last two rounds of pit stops. So where does Bushi go in terms of that? These guys have talked to each other as well. So who knows? Who knows? He's only 27 seconds back. I think Bushi's going to run it long. What we got? 20 laps to go. Bushi is hoping for a caution.
Well, if he were to get a caution, he would trap all but 3 drivers off the lead lap, force them to take waiver rounds. Oscar Jensen, Tim Hendry, and Jeremy Bushi right now the only ones on the lead lap. It's Oscar Jensen. You look at the lap time right now compared to race leader Jeremy Bushi. That last time by Jensen, a 30.6.
He's in. Bushi's coming. Bushi's coming.
The Bushi's going to come down pit road. Is he out of fuel? That was a very slow entry onto pit road. I almost wonder if he might have been sputtering coming to pit road entry.
I don't think so. I think he's okay.
Tim Hendry in the 72. We'll probably see him stay out a couple laps extra. He's only now on his 29th circuit, as he will more than likely inherit the race lead here. And this is going to now put him, though. He's going to put all but 13 cars on the lead lap now, with the 73 diving to pit road.
So Jensen is currently... God, I don't have accurate times. This is the first time by, so he's 0.9 of a second faster than Hendry, just in turns 1 and 2. So that's a lot of momentum that Hendry's losing. But I mean, again, Henry rolled his dice early. He's trying to do what he can, and well, look, I mean, he's got an option. He's gone for it. Cars that I'm keeping an eye on right now: Brian Sybry, Alex Link. So Link actually last time by ran a quicker lap than Sybry. And he definitely ran a quicker lap than Jensen. Tim Hendry's 2.2 seconds off the pace. So he ran a 32.7 last time by. Oscar Jensen was at 30.5. So fastest cars on the circuit right now are actually Alex Link. Mike Tellier's running really, really quick, but Tellier has got to look after those tires because he pit on lap 149. So he's one of the earliest to go through pit lane.
In terms of the long run, Brian Sibry has been a tick quicker than Oscar Jensen. But the time he loses on pit road, he has to then spend about 15 to 20 laps making it back up. That last time around on those green flag pit stops, he lost another 2 seconds to Oscar Jensen.
And he hasn't been initially faster the instant he gets back out on the racetrack as well. Even though he's got the tire life, right? It's taken him a little bit longer to get that pace going. Well, right now, he's only got 16 laps. You know, so he hasn't got a whole host of time to get this thing turned around and done, you know. And to be perfectly honest, Link is coming. But Link is a long way back. He's 8.4 seconds off of Hendry, and Sibry's got past Hendry. So there's 4 seconds in the lead of this motor race.
160 laps in the books, 15 laps to go. We've only had 2 cautions here tonight for on-track incidents. The first one was back on lap 5, took a number of drivers back to the garage area. The second one was in stage 2 when Tim Henry had a solo spin off the second corner. The other 2 cautions have been for the completions of stages 1 and 2. Other than that, we have been completely green flag racing. We've had 2 green flag pit stops here in the third and final stage. And Oscar Jensen looking to sweep the stages and race win for the second time this season, looking to join teammate Jeremy Boucher as a multi-time winner. And I guarantee you, the one thing he is doing right now is not even looking at the flag stand. He does not want to look up there for the chance that he sees the flagman waving a caution flag, because with 3.5 seconds back to his nearest competitor, he does not want to have upwards of 13 hungry drivers on his back bumper for a less than 10 to go restart.
Hendry's just pit too, so Hendry's now removed himself from the equation in terms of things. So he'll shuffle himself out. We'll get to see how far he needs to go for it. But I think he's left it too late. I think he's left himself way too much to do in this last run of the flag. Sibry right now is absolutely flying. Sibry is the quickest man out on track. He is who you want to keep your eyes peeled on. He's another 0.2 faster than Oscar Jensen that time by. So he is coming. Sibry is in the hunt, and Sibry wants to win it.
0.2 faster. He would need 17 laps with the pace he's running right now to be able to get on Oscar Jensen's back bumper. He's only got 12 laps to work with. That time by, he ran just a tick slower, about 2/100 slower than Oscar Jensen. So for the 46, he's just got to try to match lap times as best he can with the 33.
Yep, that's it. That's all he's doing is just manage. Put another 5 laps into this thing, and if that gap is too big, all of a sudden you can back it down another notch. You know, just look after that race car. You don't have to push things. Make sure you get enough fuel in the tank. Just keep checking these laps off. Just tick. Another lap gone. Tick. Another lap gone. Sibry's got a lot of work to do. He made up 0.3 that lap. There is traffic. There is traffic around Jensen right now. So, Sibry has still got a chance.
We saw how traffic affected Jensen just prior to the last green flag pit stop. Teammates battling out for 4th place. Dylan Stipe and Mike Tellier, both of these drivers fairly similar on the laps in their tires. Dylan Stipe advantage 2-lap pressure tires as Tellier pulls right up to his back bumper. These two trying to settle out who's going to finish 4th and 5th in this race. 5 seconds back to Jacob Grant in the 18.
Yeah, I don't know what's happened to Grant there. He's just... Again, something's just happened at the last. I mean, he did run a fair bit longer, so he's got one of the freshest sets of tires out there at this point in time. So, you know, he's going to be coming up to these guys. He's got 4.9 seconds he needs to make up to Mike Tellier. He's running 4/10 of a second faster on that last lap, but that's because Stipe and Tellier are actually fighting for it. So that actually all plays back into Jacob Grant's books. There's a chance here as well that Grant can not necessarily, I wouldn't say a podium might be out of the question, but a top 4 might get into that top 5. I think he's got a really good shot.
Less than 3 seconds now between the top 2 with 9 laps to go. Jeremy Boucher making a move on Jacob Grant. Remember that he was on pit road just moments ago, and he's going to get hooked off the nose of the 18. Caution's going to fly with less than 10 to go. Durand has to avoid. Someone got him. That was Belmonte in the 12. Oh, boy.
That was netcode.
Looked like the 73 thought he was clear, tried to move up, was not clear.
Ah, it's not netcode. Okay.
Wow.
Well, I mean, the initial bobble, the initial contact is netcode, and after that, it just sort of glues the two cars together. Wow, that just ruins Grant's night.
Grant and Bushi, I was going to mention with the pace that Bushi was running, he could have very well, on those fresher tires, maybe made his way up into the top 5 before the conclusion of this race. And Jeremy Bushi taking out his frustration on the commitment cone off of pit road, I just noticed. Take a look at it off of turn 1 once again, and I think it's just a case there of that Bushi thought he was clear. He had the fresh tires, he had the momentum. I think he thought he was going to have the 18 cleared by the time they got to turn 1, wanted that preferred outside line right up against the wall, and might have just misjudged it.
Say necessarily that he was clear. I think he expected Jacob to be a little bit further up the racetrack. If you look at it this way, Grant is in a blind spot. He 100% he's in a blind spot. But that's one of those things whereby I think that's on Bushi to be aware of where he is, because yes, you could have run down, but if you actually have a look at where he comes by him and where he starts the overtake, you can tell that Grant's not all the way up the wall.
Grant barely avoiding the spinning 73. Not so lucky for the driver that came into this race, the overall points leader, Mr. Consistency, Justin Belmonte. We're going to ride on board with him as he's actually on pit lane getting damage repair done to the right front of his machine, and it looks like he may actually be on there long enough he's going to lose a lap. So a driver who at the time was running in the 9th position just couldn't get low enough on the track, makes that contact, and that's with the front end of the race car, which is oh so important in a track like Kansas.
Yep, that's unfortunate. I mean, he sees it happening up ahead. He starts backing it down as early as he possibly can. Oh, that's disappointing from Belmonte. He's done absolutely everything he possibly could have. He made a choice early about which side he was going to go. He committed to it, and it just ended up being the wrong decision. That's unfortunate.
All right, so what's going on in the mind of one Oscar Jensen? He has dominated this race. He's won the 2 stages, but when we talked to him all the way back in stage 1, he said, I think my main source of competition here tonight is going to be that 33 of Sybri. Well, Sybri was running faster than he was on that run leading up to this yellow flag. He's now going to be alongside him for this restart with what's going to be less than 5 to go. So if you're Oscar Jensen, what do you have to do to keep that 33 in your rearview mirror for these final possibly 3 laps?
Pick your lane, make sure that you own it, and you know that it's the faster way around the racetrack. Now, if we're talking about where's the fastest place to be, right now, it could be top, it could be bottom. Both are pretty similar at this stage in the run. So,
and you look at your top 5, all of them basically in the same neighborhood in terms of tires. 19 laps for Jensen, 18 for Sybri Lincoln Stipe, 20 for Mike Tellier.
The guy that I was actually keeping an eye on, Mike Tellier, was running very, very quick. So if I'm worried about anyone, it's Mike Tellier, because he was flying up to Stipe. When I was watching the lap times, he was like 0.4 of a second quicker. But he's on the oldest tires out of all of these guys out here. So maybe he's just he knew exactly the length of the race that he needed to make them commit to and go for. But look, there's a lot of guys out here that didn't want to see a caution. I don't think there is a car in the field with a set of sticker tires left. Who's got the freshest tires? David Durand.
And Durand is going to restart in the 7th, make that 8th position in that 24 car. We'll see what he's going to be able to do. It will officially be 4 laps to go here at Kansas Speedway, barring the possibility of an overtime caution, an overtime restart. Jensen the leader, Sybri second, Link, Stipe, and Tellier complete the top 5. Gary Peck's now up to 6, so that strategy all the way back in stage 1 has benefited him. Keenan Massey 7th, David Durand, Braxton DeWeese, and Jeremy Bushi are going to complete the top 10. Here we go. Will we make it back to the white in a 4-lap shootout at Kansas? We're about to find out. Oscar Jensen in for the restart of the night.
Yeah, and I tell you what, Cyree once again, not the king on the restart. He slots in way back. Well, if you wanted to see Alex Link win a motor race, he has got his best opportunity right here. Tellier gets on by. I think Tellier's in the box seat here, lads.
Well, he pushed up the track a little bit there, got loose through the center of 1 and 2. He opened up the door for Dylan Stipe. Now clears in front of Gary Peck. Up at the front, Alex Link closes up to half a car.
Oh, Tellier's loose! Tellier's big loose! Tellier's in the fence!
Can he keep it up there? He will. We still stay under the green. They almost wrecked back there, though, trying to get around him. Hendry and Braxton DeWeese almost made some contact. 3 to go.
Jensen's got this for now, but he's running that lower momentum line. Now it's going to be on between all three of the teammates. Cyree on the low line. He's going to suck that air off of Alex Link's 71 machine. He goes back to the top once more. Cyree's going to slide up in the middle and take that spot away from him, take the air away from him. We got a motor race. Yee-hoo!
Before that caution came out, the gap was 2.8 seconds from Jensen back to Cyree, and Cyree was faster. It's now half a second with 3 miles left to go. Jensen hugs the bottom. Cyree might race to the top side. Link's going to find the wall.
Yeah, Link's been having a lot of problems with keeping that car happy at the top of the racetrack tonight. He's rubbed the wall on multiple occasions. It's too much to do. 0.6 of a second over 1 second. Nah, man, this is all of Oscar Jensen's. Let's keep an eye back further in the pack. Cyree's finally got it. All of a sudden, Dylan Stipe, out of nowhere, sitting on the podium.
Keenan Massey now hounding for the 4th position on Alex Link. He's got Gary Peck with him. David Duran and those fresh tires trying to get into the conversation for a top 5 as well. Down the back straightaway, 6-7 car lengths between the top 2. Jensen swept the stages and won the race back at the dirt-covered Bristol a few weeks ago. First asphalt win as he's going to sweep the stages and win here tonight at Kansas Speedway.
Yeah, following him home, Cyree, Stipe, Link, Massey. I think David Duran did take 6th away, and Gary Peck is going to grab the 7th. Braxton DeWeese home in 8th. What a race.
Tellier's going to finish last car on the lead lap in 9th. They made it around for those 4 laps. They almost didn't. And Oscar Jensen now is going to be the 2nd driver to have multiple wins on the season, and the 2nd entry out of Team SRD.
Wow. Wow, what a motor race. I thought that one was not going to run clean all the way through. I thought that was going to run clean all the way through. It didn't. But it didn't matter. Nobody had a set of tires left. They all burned them up. I think they all burned them and used their tires correctly. I think they all made the correct decisions in terms of when they were going to use their tires. I think all of that is... I don't even think it's a question. Jensen's had the best car all night long. He had the best strategy as well. He just ran an amazing motor race, and there's a reason that he is sitting in victory lane for the 2nd time this season tonight. You cannot fault the guy. He has led the bulk majority of laps of this race. The pit cycles is the only time he didn't lead racing laps.
I'd hazard to guess that it's probably the most laps led in a race this season. A driver. I think he led a total of 171 or 172 laps. The only laps he didn't lead, Gary Peck led under pacing. So if Peck had not stayed out, Jensen might have led the entirety of this race here tonight.
I think he led about probably 150 to 160 laps because there's a couple pit stop cycle laps that he didn't lead.
That's true. Yeah.
During the last stage, so it'll be. I think it'll be about 155 to 158 if I'm sort of guessing. Things to note, Jacob Grant, he has cast my mind back to Martinsville. Who was it that got into each other and then got into the fence? Was it Grant? I have a feeling it was Grant, wasn't it?
It was.
Was it Grant and Boucher?
Was it Grant Boucher or was that
Grant and Belmonte?
Well, there was. I'm trying to remember who the players were in the 2 incidents. I remember that Braxton DeWeese got into it with either Boucher or Cyberi. Mike Tellier got into it with either Boucher or Cyberi. I'm not sure which, but remember, Braxton DeWeese is a teammate to Jacob Grant, so I was having that in the back of my mind too.
Well, Grant was on the radio. He was not happy. He was 100%. Race control. Again, league admins have got something to do because, like, I mean, is there a case whereby that one could have been avoided? Yes, there is. There 100% is. I think Bushi just made an error in judgment. You've got to when you have a look at when they actually made contact, it was in a blind spot. But you've also got to make sure that as a driver, you're thinking that the car is going to continue on its line, and he definitely drove into the space. If when Grant went out of his view and into his blind spot, he just drove straight through that pocket. Right, there was no way they weren't going to make contact. So Sabushi is definitely got a case to answer. Grant though, for his conduct on the radio, I don't know. League admins have got something they've got to do as well. I look, it's drama. I love drama. It creates amazing races. Are we going to see that blow up in the remaining weeks? Who knows?
I mean, we go next week to the track Too Tough to Tame Darlington. Not a whole lot of space there, and the drivers are going to give each other even less space. So that's going to be interesting to kind of follow the fallout from that. I mean, to the point of Jacob Grant, you can understand the frustration. If we hadn't had that contact and had a caution come out, worst he probably would have been 7th. He finishes 7 laps down in the 14th position after being involved in that final caution of the night.
Yeah, so look, he'll definitely want to come out and say that there's a case to be answered there. Can you the please explain will be definitely handed out. I don't know, man. It's a tough one to call. It is a big tough one to call. I think should Grant have created more space? Should Grant have potentially run a little bit higher? Yes, but he doesn't have to. So he's well with it. Look, you know what? It's not my decision to make. It's not my call to make. I'll put it that way.
Well, end result, it's Oscar Jensen with the victory here tonight. We'll be talking with him in victory lane momentarily, but let's now also talk with some of the other drivers that finished up inside of the top 3. How about the comeback run for Dylan Stipe? Gonna snipe that 3rd position in the closing stages of this race, and we're gonna talk with him now. Dylan, that's Scott and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Yeah, I got you guys.
And a great run for you here tonight, Dylan. Your 2nd top 5 on the season, and man, you had a car that seemed to be really good on the short run. We saw it especially there on that final restart. Do you think if you'd been able to be up there on the front row, you might have had something here for this victory?
Possibly. I know, like, during the middle of the race and everything, the way we set the car up, or I set the car up, it was maybe not as strong short to medium run, but it got really good near the end of the run. But with 60% fuel, we can't really run as far as we can with full fuel. But I feel like I was in a good position. If the whole ordeal with Mike right in front of me on top of me, I lost a lot of speed right there. I might have had something maybe, but I definitely had a good car for tonight's race.
I mean, you hate to see it towards the back end of the race, but it definitely spiced things up. The late race caution seems to be happening a little bit more frequently now in this league as we get towards the middle and back end of this season. How do you feel about that? Do you want to see more late race cautions, or you rather just see that whole race go green at the end?
Honestly, I would love it to just go green. But having a late caution like that definitely throws a monkey wrench into everything, and you don't know exactly what everyone else's pit strategy and what they're on 100%. So it definitely makes you a little worried, especially maybe when you're out in the front and you don't know if any of the guys in the back might have some fresh tires still behind the pit wall that you don't know.
Saw a lot of drivers run the preferred line here tonight as high as you possibly can on the racetrack without slamming it into the wall. We saw a couple of drivers brush the wall during the course of this race. Well, actually, a couple might be optimistic. You were amongst those that were up inside the outside safer barrier at one point in this race. How difficult is it to deal with the damage sustained from brushing the wall the remainder of that run, or does it not affect the race car at all?
Depends how hard you really smack the wall and how many consecutive times you do hit the wall. I kind of scraped it just a little bit once, and it didn't give me any damage. And one time, the last time I went into pit, there wasn't any optional or anything, and the car didn't really feel any different. So lucky for me, it didn't really affect my race at all.
Well, a great run for you here tonight, Dylan. This will keep you up in the conversation to at least point your way into the playoffs, but I know you want to win your way in as well. Maybe you'll get to do that next week at the Lady in Black Darlington. But for now, we're going to give the opportunity to thank some sponsors and do some shout-outs.
I just want to shout out to the Radius team. Originally, we were Waffle and everything, but they kind of took some of my teammates in, including me, into the folds. I really appreciate those guys. They do great paints and definitely help with the setup instead of one or two people just solely doing every week. So it's definitely helpful in joint racing with those guys.
Dylan Stipe, third place here tonight at Kansas Speedway. Congratulations, and good luck next week at Darlington.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Well, he ran second pretty much the entirety of this race. He will end up second. Brian Sybry, our winner at Homestead earlier on this season, is your runner-up here tonight at Kansas. Brian, it's Scott and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Hey, nice talking to you guys. What's going on?
Man, I'll tell you what, it was shaping up to be a good one here tonight between you and the 46. You were the top two probably the entirety of this race, but then one thing we noticed was the longer the run went on, the faster your car got. And we were kind of wondering there if we ended up having this thing run green to the end. I think before that caution came out, you'd cut it down to about 2.7 seconds. Did you have enough time to reel them in, do you think?
Yeah, so I was making adjustments during the race. After that first two stages, I knew I had to do something to catch them. And so I was lowering the rear end and trying to slim it out a little more, take some of the turn away. And it was getting faster. I started running my fastest lap of the race. And I would pit one lap after him, so I had one lap fresher tires. But, man, like you said, I'd get it right down to about 2.5 seconds, and it would flatten right out. And then getting to him is one thing, and then trying to pass my old tires is another. So I don't know if I had anything for Oscar tonight. Once he got out front, got that track position, and I had a few questionable pit stops and whatnot. Yeah, he just walked away from it.
Man, just like it's so good when you get to see your entire team near the front there. I mean, you gotta feel a little bit deflated for Bushi. He ran the alternative strategy. He was slowly coming. I mean, he was slowly. He was really trying to punch out the fast laps towards the back end of the race. Is there anything that you guys are going to analyze out of Bushi's incident? You work together. Talk to us about that sort of process within the team and how you deal with an issue like this. How you deal with coming together with the other guys. Do you repair the relationship? Do you just move on and go racing again next week as if nothing ever happened?
Yeah, so we were looking at it before I came up here, and unfortunately the first one's net code, and when that happens, both guys feel like they didn't do anything wrong, right? So they're probably a little, like, well, what did you do that to me for? And so the second one, I started looking at that one too with Jeremy, and it's just kind of like that part of entry into one, the guy in the bottom is going to come up a little bit to arc the corner, and they get together. So it's tough, we don't. I like to see the clean racing, right? And this is a great league to be running in. I look forward to this every week, and a good group of guys here. So I don't think anybody does anything intentional. It's that thing at Martinsville with me and Mike. My frustrations kind of boiled over there, but for the most part, I love being here, and I don't think anybody does anything on purpose to take any other driver out. And it's just, I think tonight with Jacob and Jeremy, it was just truly two racing incidents where, the first one started with net code and the second one just kind of cars get together and meet.
We documented.
I'm going to steal your second question here, Seth, if you don't mind. My question to you is, do you reach out to Jacob Grant this week as a team and go, hey, we just want to race you fair. Apologies, obviously something's happened this week. We're heading to Darlington next week where the car's going to be a little bit closer. Do you make sure you repair that relationship within the league and you try and run them, try and make sure that next week is as fair as it possibly is?
Oh yeah, absolutely. In fact, they're down there together right now going through it, and Jacob dropped down in the box, and yeah, and I mean that's to be honest with you, I've reached out to just about every racer in this league, whether I've gotten into them or not, just to congratulate them or tell them good job, or I know me and Massey have had some close racing 2 weeks in a row, and that's again, if I finish 4th, 5th, and I'm door to door with somebody for 20, 30 laps, that's the reward, right? It's just to have that hard, clean racing, and that's why I race leagues, because you don't get that in the A Opens or the NIS that you can get in the league, because the people.
I love this league.
Yeah.
I love this league. I'm saying it again. I love this league. I love it to death.
Yeah.
So, do I love it to death? How many times do I say it?
I think I'm losing count of how many times you said it. Brian, a great run for you here tonight, Brian. Second place. Congratulations. The momentum certainly keeps up here, it seems, with this 33 car, and you just get the feeling that pretty soon we're going to see a third SRD car get multiple wins this season, maybe as early as Darlington next week. We're going to have the opportunity now for some thank you sponsors and shout-outs.
Hey, I want to thank you guys for coming out and do this. I haven't talked to you in quite a few weeks, so I'm just happy to be up here in second place. And having a good finish tonight, and just the league, man, as a whole. Going before tonight, we had 8 different winners in 9 weeks. So again, you can't complain about that stuff. This is a quality league, and I'm having a lot of fun. So again, thanks to you guys for doing what you do. Thanks to all the drivers in the league, and for Dylan putting this together for us to come out here every Sunday night and have some fun.
Brian Cyber locks down second place here tonight at Kansas. Once again, congratulations, and good luck next week at the Track Too Tough to Tame at Darlington.
All right, thanks, boys.
And let's now go down to victory lane. We talked to him at the end of stage 1. We talked to him at the end of stage 2. He completes the sweep for the second time this season. Tonight, it's at Kansas Speedway. Oscar, it's Scott and Seth up here in the booth again. You got us?
Hello. Hello.
I mean, man, you talked to us back in stage 1. You said the goal was clear. You wanted to win both the stages and close the thing out. You did it here tonight. You become the second multi-time winner on the season. But what was the emotion going on in that 46 when you saw that caution come out with less than 10 to go?
At this point, I'm kind of just used to cautions coming out within the last 20 laps whenever I'm leading. It seems to be a trend for me, so I'm just like, okay, not surprised. But at the same time, you also got the emotion of, does anyone have fresher tires? Or, you also got the pressure of not to screw up on older tires when trying to launch. So there's a lot, but, just keep calm and you'll do fine.
I mean, what a race you ran tonight, man. You land like 90+% of the laps. Clearly the better car that's out here. I feel like we're going to be talking to you again in a couple weeks, man. It's just been such a great run tonight. Who do you have to thank for like all the setup work and everything? Talk us through going through the entire thing. You made changes to the car because you weren't happy. 100% happy. You were confident, but you weren't happy. How do you prep the car throughout the night? How do the changes, everything? Talk us through the night as a whole.
Yeah, well, obviously during the first stage, I thought we were pretty much the best car of the field, and obviously once people are able to make pit stops, they can make the cars better. And like I told y'all, I needed to stay on top of that and keep getting my car to handle better than it was before. And during stage 2, I made an adjustment which seemed to work out. And then going into stage 3, I didn't change anything, but obviously Brian changed something because he was able to catch me the longer we went on, and that was the thought going through my head, but being able to see that just level out after, 30-ish laps was pretty relaxing. But I mean, SOD as a whole has been very helpful when it comes to setups, especially Jeremy and Tim and Cody. They put a lot of time and effort into getting our sets good for wherever we may be running, and it's been a journey.
I want to piggyback off of what Scott was just talking about, race preparation, because as we noticed with the long green flag runs in that third stage, we had 2 green flag pit stops. And while you and the 33 equal times on pit road, in your pit stall and off of pit road, we would see the gap open from anywhere to a second and a half. So obviously your entry onto pit road or your exit onto pit road was a lot better, your attack mode onto pit lane. How much preparation did you put into green flag pit stops heading into tonight's race? And how much in the back of your head were you thinking that we were going to end up having these green flag pit stops like we did?
That's the funny thing. It seems to be every A Open and NIS I've done before tonight, I've sped at least once under green flag pit stops, and I've thrown away a few good finishes. So just me going through 3 and 4 of the lap, I'm going to pit them, I think I took it a little bit easier than I probably could have, just to not screw up again. But I mean, at the same time, it's like if you slow up too much, then you're going to lose time. So I think I just found a sweet spot, which was not gaining or losing time, which was very helpful. And at the same time was I think I locked it up a few times, almost speeding, trying to get a little bit more out of it. But other than that, it's mostly just hang on tight and don't speed.
Final question for you, Oscar. We mentioned that coming into tonight, you had won both stages at Bristol Dirt, won that race. You win both stages here tonight, win this race. No driver has even been able to do that once. You've done it twice now. How much of a statement is this of just showing how dominant a car you have? When that car is good, that car is good.
Car wise or driver wise, I mean, I know some weeks we all run the same setup. But honestly, I think at this point it's either I'm winning or I'm wrecking the car. I can't really find an in between. So, it's one of those two. But it does it feels really good to be able to go win 2 races and collect both stages, and hopefully the next race we win, we either sweep it all, or at least win one stage, and maybe, as bad as it sounds, maybe lose the second stage but still come back and win it. I mean, I don't know. It's either win it or wreck it for me.
Congratulations nonetheless. Strong car here tonight. Nobody seemed to be able to touch you. You had that thing on lock this entire 175 laps. Oscar, we're now going to turn the microphone over to you, let you do some victory shoutouts, thank yous, and sponsors.
First off, obviously got to thank you guys, because y'all are here and wouldn't have anything, wouldn't have any broadcast without y'all. Got to thank Dylan and everyone in Clutch Drop who makes this possible each and every week, as well as everyone from SRD who's helped me along the way and has been there to help me out. And then Cody obviously was big boy, like a brother to me, and has definitely helped me within these past few weeks, as well as some guys at Nexus. So yeah.
Oscar Jensen, he was the dominant car of the night, swept both stages, picks up his second win on the season. It takes place here tonight at Kansas Speedway. Congratulations, Oscar. Carry this momentum into Darlington and Dover. Those are 2 tough tracks coming up, so best of luck to you.
Will do. Thank you.
And as we get ready to conclude our coverage here from Kansas, Scott, I'll ask you one more time because I don't think it stung through. How much do you like this league?
I'm not a fan. Not a fan. I'm a big fan. Not just a fan. Big fan. Giant fan. Great league. Great race. Great personalities. Great people. How many times do you hear from drivers that they immediately thank broadcasters and league admins? Honestly, when you go to some of those leagues with the bigger egos and those sorts of things, and maybe they don't enjoy the racing because the racing's too close and everyone thinks they deserve a little bit more space and whatnot, you don't hear that. I don't think we've ever interviewed a driver. When we interview the 3 drivers who are in Victory Road, I don't think we've ever done an interview with the drivers whereby they haven't thanked the league at some point. And what that says to me is, again, confidence in the league, admins. Yes, we have issues. Yes, they're going to get resolved. Beautiful. That's exactly what I want to hear. Man, I love this league.
And I loved the point that you made there, too, when we were talking with Cybri about, is there driver communication during the off week or even immediately after the race, as we hear, that Jacob Grant ironing things out with Jeremy Boucher immediately after the checkered flag waved. The thing of it is, too, the patching up of the relationships is so important, especially with the 2 tracks we've got coming up. They aren't giving these monikers for no reason. We've got the track Too Tough to Tame at Darlington next week, and then the following week we go to the Monster Mile. If scores are going to be settled, those are 2 tracks where you can easily do that. So patch things over now while you've got the opportunity. I think it's a great thing that both Grant and Deweese are currently, Grant and Bushi are currently in the process of talking things out, so that way there is no fallout either next week.
Competition. And the reason they want to talk to their competition, they want to come back out next week and show everything that they've got, because both of those drivers love the league. They will be back next week without a doubt. So everyone wants to be happy, and the best way to be happy is to get back out there, fix those relationships, get back out again next week as if nothing ever happened. Perfect.
Well, it's certainly a race on the schedule that drivers and fans alike look forward to next week under the lights at Darlington Raceway. It is Throwback Weekend. Going to be a lot of fun to see what creativity these drivers are going to come up with, what drivers they're going to be throwing back to. Sometimes we end up seeing drivers that I even forget the paint scheme existed, and so there may be a couple of those. But Oscar Jensen now joins Jeremy Boucher as a 2-time winner. And the door's still open now for drivers to still continue to point their way in. 8 winners in the first 10 races. We've still got spots open for drivers to either win or point their way in. There's still a lot of season still to go before the playoffs even begin.
Yeah, so we've only effectively, for my mind, we're having the exact same problem that they've got in the real world, which is a win doesn't guarantee you entry into the playoffs at the moment. So the only two drivers that we definitely know that are locked in for playoff spots are now Cybery and Jensen. So it's good. We've got a season where these guys are like, yo, yeah, I've got a win in the book. I don't have to worry too much. Not the case whatsoever.
Not at all. These drivers still have to go out there, still have to make sure that they are at least consistent, if not, have an opportunity to be able to pick up, if not a first win, a second win to secure themselves a spot into the playoffs. Still a lot of season left to go. And as mentioned, next week we're going to be going to Darlington. That will be next Sunday night, green flag to fly at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But what a great one here tonight at Kansas. A very clean race, only 3 on-track incident cautions, 2 stage cautions, and a lot of long green flag racing. Scott, appreciate you joining me in the booth here tonight for this one.
Man, I wouldn't miss this for the world.
Thanks to everybody that tuned in tonight. We hope you guys enjoyed our coverage here tonight at Kansas Speedway. Oscar Jensen is your winner, a 2-time winner here in the Clutch Drop Cup Series. For Scott Rankin, I'm Seth Cole. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday night as you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of the Flatout Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's